Have you ever wondered why men seem unable to show their real feelings? What if I told you that a man deeply in love with you has already told you just in a way most women never notice? Carl Jung discovered something powerful. The unconscious mind doesn't use logic. It speaks in symbols and repeated patterns in behavior. And when it comes to love, especially for men, their unconscious often says, more than words ever can you see. Men don't always say, I love you, the way movies have trained us to expect. They don't always announce it, post about it, or shout it from rooftops. No, when a man is truly, deeply, soul-shakenly in love, he speaks in a code. He uses a sentence that sounds normal, even plain, but behind it is his entire emotional world. And here's the part no one tells you. Most women miss it. They miss it because they're waiting to hear romance. But what he's offering is reverence. They're looking for big gestures. But what he gives is quiet loyalty. Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So today we're turning on the light because the man in your life, or the one who's coming into your life, he may already be speaking to you from the deepest part of his soul. He's just not doing it in the language you expect. And that's what I want to show you today. Going to uncover the 7 phrases a man says only when he's in love with his entire being. They won't sound poetic. Some may even sound like everyday words, the kind you'd barely notice. But that's the key. These phrases aren't about what's being said. They're about when he says them, why he says them, and how he says them. Think about it this way. A tiger doesn't purr like a house cat. A volcano doesn't whistle like a kettle. And a man in love doesn't always say, I love you. He shows it in the way he breaks his own emotional habits. That's how you know it's real. Before we begin, I just want to ask you for something. If any part of what you've heard so far already stirs something inside you, if your heart whispers this explains so much, please like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. I'm pouring my soul into this, not just to explain, but to help women finally understand how real love speaks through men. Because once you hear the first phrase, you'll never listen the same way again. You might even realize he's been loving you this whole time in a language deeper than words. What do you think? A man's strength isn't just about what he can carry. It's about who he trusts enough to carry it with him. So let's start with a phrase that sounds so simple. So every day, what do you think? You've probably heard it over coffee, during a drive, while he's scrolling on his phone. Maybe he said it half distracted, looking up at the ceiling, but don't get it wrong. Because when a man truly loves you, those 4 little words mean everything. It's not just a polite question. It's a quiet act of surrender. Carl Jung taught that the male mind is shaped by the inner warrior, the part built for action, for control, for handling things alone. That warrior doesn't need help. That warrior doesn't ask for advice. The warrior leads, hides weakness, makes choices alone. So when a man looks into your eyes and says, what do you think? He's stepping out of that armor. He's breaking his own rules. That's not small talk. That's him saying, I trust you with something that matters to me. Picture a soldier on the battlefield. He's used to being in charge, calling all the shots, but now he radios back, not for orders, but for your insight. That's what's happening here. He's not just asking you for your opinion. He's showing you that your thoughts guide his path. And for a man, that's sacred. Now, maybe you're thinking, but he asked me which shirt looks better. That's not life-changing. True, but don't just listen to the words. Watch how he says them. Look at his eyes, his posture, the softness in his voice. Does he actually pause to hear what you'll say? Then it's not about shirts. It's about inviting you into his world. Because when a man lets you help him choose, when he brings you into his decisions, he's not giving up power. He's sharing his life. He sees you not as a background character, but as a partner, a woman whose mind holds weight. And that means something deep. I'll tell you about Mara. She was calm, thoughtful, in her 50s, and had been with her partner for more than a decade. One day during a conversation about retirement, he looked at her and asked, what do you think I should do? She said later, that moment meant more to her than the ring he gave her, more than any romantic note. Because in that one question, she felt his heart. She knew he couldn't picture the future without her voice in it. So next time a man asks you that question, take a pause, feel what he's really saying. Because sometimes what do you think really means? I need your wisdom to move forward. And don't ever doubt that your opinion matters. Your insight is influence. Your voice is a compass in his storm. You're not just answering a question, you're shaping a future he wants you to be part of. I had a rough day. The strongest man isn't the one who hides his pain. It's the one who knows where it's safe to put it down. Let's talk about a sentence that sounds small but carries heavy meaning. He walks in, drops his keys, rubs his neck, and says, I had a rough day. Seems simple, right? But if you only hear the words, you'll miss what he's really giving you, because when a man says this and really means it, it's not just a recap, it's a reveal, it's vulnerability. Carl Jung said that the male mind is built around the warrior. That part of him that survives, leads, protects, and pushes through. And what does the warrior never do? Show weakness. That's why so many men, good men, kind men, loving men, walk through life carrying emotional weight they never let anyone see, not because they don't feel, but because feeling for them means breaking the image of what they think a man should be. So when he looks at you and says, I had a rough day, that's not just him complaining, that's him choosing to be seen, that's him trusting that with you, he doesn't have to pretend. Music, it may not be poetic. Most men don't cry on cue, they don't give big speeches about their emotions. But when he gives you that little opening, when he says today was hard, he's handing you the key to his inner world. And if he lets you see him tired, that's a man whose heart already feels safe. With you, here's what many women miss. They brush past that moment. They try to cheer him up too fast or think he's just moody. But this is where love lives. The quiet in the real, in those few honest words that cost him more than you know. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to make it better. You just have to hold space for it. Maybe sits beside you and says nothing at all. Maybe he simply wants to exist near you without having to explain every thought. That's not distance. That's trust, and it's realist. Form, because when a man says, I had a rough day, what he's really saying is, you're where I feel safe. You're the one place I don't need to wear my armor. And when you answer that moment with grace, with silence, tension, not pressure, or questions, you become his calm in the middle of chaos. Ladies, don't overlook how powerful it is for a man to soften in your presence, because when he shares his stress with you, he's not just venting, he's sharing his heart. And then comes something even more subtle. He doesn't use emotional words at all. Instead, he reacts to something you changed in his space. And that's where love speaks in a quieter language. Stay close now, because here's where this thing gets tender. He says, I like how you arranged this. A man's space isn't just a place, it's where his identity finds structure. So let's pause on this phrase that might sound casual, but carries a deeper message. I like how you arranged this. Maybe he says it after you straightened the cushions or shifted the mugs around or added a plant to a quiet corner. Maybe you moved the couch just a little or set something down differently, something tiny, something he never asked for, but he still notices and says he likes it. Now, let me tell you what that really means. In simple terms, when it comes to a man's mind, his space is sacred. His room, his truck, his office, or even that cluttered garage shelf full of old tools. Those aren't just spots. Those are symbols of his sense of control. His way of holding himself together, which means letting someone else shift that space, even just a bit, isn't about taste. It's about trust. So when he says, I like how you arranged this, not just giving a compliment, he's letting you in. You now have access to a part of his world. Never gives freely access to the life he's crafted to stay in control, access to the version of him few ever get close to, because a man's life is built in sections. There's a place for working, a place for relaxing, a place for being alone. But when he starts letting you blur those lines, add a soft touch, leave a trace, it's not about the shelf or the pillow. It's about what you represent. You're not just visiting, you belong here. You're not just adjusting the room, you're becoming part of the whole. And that's not decorating, that's integration. You don't need to live with him to shift his world. Your energy alone can start the transformation. Suddenly he's burning a candle instead of tossing his socks in the corner. Suddenly he's buying the snacks you love. Suddenly there's space for your things, your books, your scent, your presence in quiet ways when he lets you shape his surroundings. He's really saying, you're shaping me. I'm no longer afraid of it now. Let me tell you about Simone. She dated a man who had been living solo for years, clean, organized, private one day. She adjusted his kitchen layout, just made it flow better. Nothing major. When he came home, he looked around and softly said, I like how you set this up. She almost didn't think much of it. But weeks later, he brought it up again and said, that's when I realized I could let someone into my world and not feel like I was losing myself. That's the power in those small words. It's not about decor. It's about letting go. It's about sharing. It's about home. So next time you hear him say something like that, don't dismiss it. He's not just accepting your changes. He's telling you you're a part of his world. And then he does something else. He begins to talk about tomorrow. But what he's really doing is giving you a glimpse of forever. Listen closely. Now, what are you doing tomorrow? We don't make plans with people. We plan to forget. So let's look at this soft question. What are you doing tomorrow? You might hear it and think he's just trying to see if you're free. Maybe a quick lunch or some casual hangout, but no, that's not what's happening here. Not when it's coming from a man who truly cares for you. Because time for a man isn't just about dates and hours. It's tied to his sense of purpose, to his direction, to how he sees his life. And when a man starts inviting you into that timeline, even in small ways, like tomorrow, it means something real is happening. Deep down, he's not just asking for your time. He's weaving you into his journey. And here's what most don't realize. Men don't casually offer up their future to just anyone. If he's making room for you in it, it's because his heart has already started moving in your direction. When a man starts picturing you in his tomorrow, he's already quietly choosing you for something more permanent. Because the way men are built, they're always moving towards something. The next task, the next goal, the next challenge. But when he stops for a second, turns toward you, and asks about your next day, he's not just filling his schedule. He's trying out what life would feel like with you in it. Every little time he says, what are you doing this weekend, or want to come with me next month? He's not just talking about plans. He's stitching you into his momentum, into the path he's building forward. That's not just logistics. That's emotional investment. Now, let me share this from Tara. She used to get irritated when her boyfriend always asked what she was doing tomorrow. Even when they had no solid plans, she thought maybe he was being too controlling or overly involved, until one day he looked at her and said, I just like knowing where you are. It makes me feel close to you. And in that moment, she got it. It wasn't about control. It was about closeness. So the next time he asks that question, even if it feels small, don't brush it off. He's not just curious. He's seeing if you still fit into his picture of the world. And when he starts talking about the future, he's not just scheduling. He's planting emotional roots, and then something rare happens. He stops pretending he has it all figured out. And when that happens, it's not weakness. It's actually the biggest opening. His heart, the phrase is quiet but powerful. I don't know what to do. And that right there might shake you, because it doesn't sound strong. It doesn't sound sure. And yet it's one of the bravest sentences a man can say. So let's slow down with this one. I don't know what to do. It's not just uncertainty. It's the sound of a man taking off his armor and showing you the scared part, the unsure part, the human part. Because for many women, it sounds like failure, like indecision, like giving up. But for a man, modernity puts us in an interesting paradox. We are more connected than ever, but also often feel lonelier. We are filled with commitments and tasks, yet often feel ignored or undervalued by those we consider important. In the current landscape, we all want to feel important to our close circle, but often feel as though we are not as important to them as they are to us here. Stoicism and philosophy can offer valuable guidance. The Stoics teach us to find value within ourselves and not to rely solely on the recognition of others, but how can we apply these teachings in our daily lives to be more valued by those around us? This video explored effective strategies aligned with Stoicism and philosophy to gain priority in the lives of others and determine if these people have a genuine interest in us. It's important to note this is not about manipulative strategies or tricks, but about a wise and authentic approach to building genuine high-value relationships. As the famous saying goes, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are, if you're not a priority for them. These people probably don't have a genuine and authentic interest in you. Within this ancient philosophy, we find principles to balance our needs and relationships. The essence is to be valuable without being needy. The first step to gaining priority in the lives of others is to create a sense of loss. When you are always available and respond immediately, people assume you'll always be there in the fast-paced modern world. Time is a precious resource, and Stoicism teaches us to give it its proper value. You should allow people to miss you and occasionally notice your absence. The Stoics remind us that we can't control what happens around us, but we can control how we respond by valuing your time and attention. You become someone who respects themselves, and others will start to see you as a valuable person. Don't be afraid to say no or not. Respond immediately to requests. Practice the art of patience and let others value your time as much as you do. The art of cultivating patience is a SK skill that can enrich your life in countless ways. In the philosophy of Stoicism, we find the concept that patience is more than just a virtue. It's a vital force in a turbulent world of constant distractions and upheavals. Think of patience as a skill, an ability to remain stable and serene amidst chaos. By embracing tranquility, you become a beacon of stability, an example of composure in tumultuous times. This skill of calmly waiting without succumbing to the immediacy and pressures of the comscare and now does not imply passivity. On the contrary, it's an act of inner strength and emotional mastery. By practicing patience, you not only preserve yourself from the turbulence of emotions, but also project an image of confidence and resilience. It's as if you become an oasis of calm that attracts others, offering a refuge from the constant storm of everyday life. Furthermore, patience directly influences how others perceive and value your presence in a world where everyone is always rushing. Those who know how to wait wisely stand out. You will be seen as someone who is not dominated by impatience and immediacy, but who ponders and acts with consideration to become someone whose presence is valued and sought after. It's essential to start with yourself. Prioritizing yourself is not a selfish act. It's a necessary step to establish the value of your time and attention. By doing so, you teach others the importance of valuing not only themselves, but also the time and effort you offer. It's crucial to learn to say no. Occasionally, constant availability can be interpreted as a lack of self-worth, leading others to assume that your time and attention are always available without the need for appreciation and recognition. In some summary, practicing patience and valuing yourself are fundamental steps to being recognized and appreciated in any environment. By mastering these skills, you not only benefit yourself, but also provide others with an inspiring example of balance and resilience. The wisdom of the Stoics, like that of Senna, offers us a valuable lesson on the importance of being masters of our own time. This philosophy encourages us to carefully reflect on how and with whom we spend our time, emphasizing the need to make deliberate and conscious choices. Seneca reminds us that time is a precious resource, and managing it wisely is essential for a fulfilling and meaningful life. The ability to say no to others respectfully is a crucial aspect of this time management. It's not a matter of selfishness, but rather of self-respect and recognizing the value of our own time and needs. Epicurus, on the other hand, invites us to ponder freedom and self-control. His words resonate powerfully. No man is free who is not master of himself. This phrase underlines the idea that true freedom and autonomy arise from mastery over our own decisions and emotions. It's not just about controlling our external actions, but also governing our inner world, our thoughts, feelings, and reactions. Stoicism values living according to our principles and values, and this includes how we handle our time and energy by choosing not to be always available. We demonstrate that we value our time and energy, thereby cultivating respect for ourselves and others. This mutual respect naturally leads others to prioritize us more in their lives. Therefore, understanding and applying these Stoic and Epicurean teachings can lead us to a more balanced and fulfilling life by valuing our time and being selective in our commitments. We not only improve our own life, but also positively influence those around us. This is the essence of living with purpose and integrity, guided by principles that reflect our true self. The pursuit of becoming more important and a priority in the lives of others leads us to explore the art of mystery. Often there is a natural inclination to openly share our feelings, thoughts, and aspirations with others. However, this practice of overexposure can paradoxically reduce the perception of our value. Humans are naturally drawn to the unknown and unexplored, valuing what seems rare or out of reach. If you are committed to your evolution, leave this phrase in the comments. I commit to myself, and write today's date to ensure it's not forgotten. Let's continue the Stoic teachings, which emphasize self-discipline and self-control. Guide us to approach our interactions with a calculated reserve. Maintaining an air of mystery is not about hiding our true identity, but rather about revealing our essence gradually, thoughtfully. This strategy not only preserves our privacy, but also stimulates the curiosity and interest of others when it comes to conversations and social interactions. Opting for vaguer and less detailed responses about personal history or intimate secrets can be a wise approach. This doesn't mean being evasive or dishonest, but rather carefully choosing what to share and when to do it. In this way, you invite others to take a more active interest in your story. Maintaining a continuous focus on yourself by practicing this approach, you not only safeguard significant aspects of your life, but also create an environment where people feel motivated to learn more about you. This can lead to deeper and more meaningful interactions where the gradual revelation of your personality and experiences happens naturally and authentically, increasing your importance and priority in the lives of others. Seneca's quote, "Fortune favors the bold," resonates deeply when applied to the art of sharing personal information. In this context, boldness is not about reckless actions, but about the wisdom of knowing how much information to share, and at what moment there's a delicate balance between being open and reserved, and the ability to navigate this duality can significantly increase your attractiveness and importance to others. The concept of maintaining an air of mystery, as addressed by Stoic philosophy, is a powerful tool. By doing so, you spa-mark others' curiosity. People are naturally drawn to the unknown and the potential for discovery. When you leave room for others to wonder about aspects of your life, you become more interesting and attractive in their eyes. As Stoicism teaches, it's essential to focus on what is within our control. The amount of personal information we share undoubtedly falls into this category. Consciously controlling this aspect, you're not hiding, but choosing to share yourself in a strategic and thoughtful way. This practice allows you to reveal yourself, gradually maintaining others' interest and respect. Furthermore, it's important to remember that seeking constant approval from others can lead to dissatisfaction. By maintaining a bit of mystery, you allow others to value you for who you truly are, not just for what you choose to show. This can lead to more authentic and meaningful connections, where appreciation arises not from the amount of information shared, but from the quality of your essence and presence. Therefore, the true boldness lies in being strategic and deliberate regarding the sharing of personal information, maintaining a balance that enhances your importance and attraction to others. The idea of allowing others to invest in you is a powerful concept and a crucial step in the journey to becoming more important and a priority in their lives. This approach goes beyond ego. It touches on the fundamental human desire to feel valued and useful. Seneca, in his Stoic wisdom, highlighted that people feel gratified when chosen to contribute to someone's life, thereby enriching their own experiences. Allowing others to contribute to your life can take many forms. It can be as simple as accepting a compliment with gratitude or acknowledging and valuing someone's assistance or advice. By doing this, you not only receive something valuable, but also provide others with the satisfaction of feeling appreciated and important. This creates a cycle of positivity and mutual respect where everyone involved benefits. This principle is in harmony with the Stoic view of human interdependence. Our society is a complex web of relationships and interactions, and recognizing our mutual need for support and collaboration is vital. Stoicism teaches us that there is no weakness in asking for help or accepting support. On the contrary, these acts strengthen human connections and promote cooperation. By opening ourselves to receiving help, guidance, or even a gesture of kindness, we create a more profound and meaningful relationship. Dynamic people feel more invested in our lives when their actions and contributions are acknowledged and valued. This in turn increases the likelihood of them considering us a priority in their lives. In summary, by allowing others to invest in you, you not only enrich your own life, but also provide others the joy and satisfaction of being part of something bigger. This mutual recognition and appreciation are key to building strong and lasting relationships where you become an important, prioritized person for others. If you're enjoying this, don't miss out on the opportunity. Acquire now the ebook Stoicism in the 21st Century, Ancient Strategies for Modern Challenges, and unlock your prosperity, abundance, and improve your relationships with this ebook. Link in the pinned comment. Let's return to the core of Stoicism and talk about independence. An ancient Stoic Epicurus taught us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. Independence in Stoicism doesn't mean complete isolation from others, but rather autonomy and self-governance. It's the ability to make conscious decisions without overly depending on external approval or influence. Practicing independence is a crucial element in increasing your value and importance in the lives of others. Within Stoic philosophy, independence is not just a matter of physical or financial autonomy. It's primarily an independence of thought and action. This independence manifests in how you adhere to your own ethics and values, which in turn fosters respect and admiration from others. Being independent means being the guardian of your own morality and principles by demonstrating that you act according to your conventions and not merely following the expectations or pressures of others. You gain a respect that transcends mere popularity. Your integrity becomes a beacon to others, highlighting your uniqueness and strength. Furthermore, independence fosters authenticity in your relationships. Instead of being a mere passive participant or follower in social dynamics, you position yourself as an individual who actively contributes to the well-being of others. This doesn't mean that you isolate yourself or reject the help of others. On the contrary, it means that you engage in relationships from a position of strength and self-awareness, capable of offering as much as you receive. Independence, as shaped by Stoicism, involves strong self-discipline, self-awareness, and self-control. These are attractive qualities to those who value strong and integrous individuals. By cultivating these characteristics, you become an example to be followed, influencing others through your actions and attitudes. Additionally, being generous and open to allowing others to contribute to your life is an essential complement to independence. Combination of autonomy and receptivity creates a healthy balance where you not only maintain yourself as a strong and self-sufficient individual, but also recognize the value of others' contributions. This enhances your attraction and respect in the eyes of others. Ultimately, the true richness of life lies in the depth and meaning of relationships and connections. By cultivating independence while remaining open to the contributions of others, you create a virtuous circle of mutual appreciation and respect. This not only strengthens your personal relationships, but also expands your impact and importance in the lives of others in our journey to become more important and a priority to others. It's essential to prioritize our needs. This is key to learning to be more valued by others. Often we end up sacrificing our own needs for the sake of others, leading to excessive exploitation and a lack of respect for ourselves in today's society. There is often the promotion of the idea that we should always be available to everyone. However, this is not only unsustainable, but can also make others see you as an inexhaustible resource, draining your attention and valuable time. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we must take responsibility for our own life and well-being, establishing healthy boundaries and prioritizing our own needs before attending to others. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus expressed this profound idea: first, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This statement encapsulates one of the fundamental principles of Stoicism, which has a significant impact on how we relate to ourselves and others. It prompts us to engage in an act of self-affirmation and self-knowledge before undertaking any action in life. This self-affirmation involves recognizing our needs, desires, and personal values, understanding that these need to be met before we can be truly valuable to others. Stoic perspective, as you've described, offers a profound insight into achieving a life full of meaning and value, both for oneself and for others. This approach emphasizes that true value and virtue begin within us, with the cultivation of self-mastery and self-knowledge seeking. Self-approval, rather than constantly depending on external validation, is one of the cornerstones of Stoicism. This pursuit of self-approval is not an act of selfishness, but rather a recognition of the importance of self-acceptance and confidence in our own identity and goals. When we are secure in who we are and what we want, project an authentic confidence that naturally attracts others. This confidence doesn't come from arrogance, but from a clear and honest understanding of our capabilities, limitations, and values. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, emphasized the importance of aligning our actions with our intentions and words. It's not enough to just state our virtues and goals. We need to back up our words with consistent actions. This congruence between what we say and what we do is crucial for establishing our integrity and trustworthiness when our actions reflect our values and authentic identity. We strengthen our value in the eyes of others. Consistency and integrity are highly valued and attract those who respect such qualities. Furthermore, by defining our values and goals through introspection and self-assessment, we create an internal compass that guides our decisions and actions. This internal guidance allows us to navigate the complexities of life with greater clarity and purpose, strengthening our character and our ability to positively impact those around us. In summary, Stoic philosophy teaches us that to be truly valuable to others, we must first cultivate virtues within ourselves. This creates a foundation of authenticity and integrity, enabling us to live meaningfully and establish deep and valuable relationships with others. Here we reach the crucial point of this video. Don't center your life around others in today's society. We often fall into the trap of putting others on a pedestal, losing our own direction. Don't make others the center of your life. Don't always be available. Value your time and attention, and you'll see how it makes you more valuable to others. Here we reach the crucial point of this video. Don't center your life around others in today's society. We often fall into the trap of putting others on a pedestal, losing our own direction. Don't make others the center of your life. Don't always be available. Your time and attention, and you'll see how it makes you more valuable to others. No one can harm you without your consent. Don't allow others to define or control you. This powerful quote is a reminder that ultimately we are the guardians of our inner peace and emotional well-being in a world where critical opinions and judgments of others can be pervasive. It's essential to understand that we have the power to choose how they affect us. Stoicism teaches us to cultivate the virtue of selective indifference, meaning we must learn to discern what deserves our attention. Being masters of our minds and emotions is a call to self-reflection and authenticity. The authenticity of being who we are without fear of external judgment. When we internalize this Stoic principle, we become masters of our own fate, and our self-esteem and self-respect flourish, culminating in making you more valuable and important to others. Therefore, when facing challenges and criticisms in our lives, let's remember this powerful truth from Marcus Aurelius: no one can harm you without your consent. Stop initiating conversation in a world where constant communication is the norm. This may seem challenging, but it has its roots in Stoic wisdom. Stoics like Epictetus reminded us of the importance of listening more than speaking, allowing others to initiate conversation. Let you learn more about them and yourself. When you're always ready to talk, you can appear anxious and sometimes self-centered, which often pushes people away. Patience and willingness to let others initiate conversations align with building genuine high-value relationships. This approach, focused on applying Stoic principles in daily life, is a powerful tool for personal growth and strengthening genuine and meaningful relationships by incorporating concepts such as the creation of a fear of loss, practicing patience, moderating availability, maintaining a certain mystery, being open to receiving investments from others, prioritizing one's own needs, cultivating independence, and the ability to let others initiate interactions. You are positioning yourself for a more balanced and authentic life. It's important to highlight that the core of Stoicism goes beyond its impact on external relations. It promotes a profound transformation in the relationship we have with ourselves by following these principles. You learn to find serenity amid chaos, make more thoughtful decisions, and face adversity with robust mental strength. These skills are essential for a fulfilling me of fear. Have you ever found yourself wondering, does he truly love me, or am I just another chapter in his story? Most of us have been there, right? Caught between hopeful signs and unsettling doubts. In today's world, where words are often cheap and promises even cheaper, it's easy to miss the real signals that define a man's authentic love. You've probably heard that love is shown through actions. And here's the problem. Most women are trained to look for the wrong signs. The flashy gestures, the social media displays, the constant texting, missing the quieter, more profound truths hidden in plain sight. It's a huge misconception that love always roars. Sometimes true love whispers. If you don't know what to listen for, you could miss a man who truly treasures you, or worse, waste time on someone who doesn't. That's where today's journey comes in. Imagine if you could decode the real emotions behind a man's words, not based on guesses or wishful thinking, but based on stoic, grounded understanding. Understanding rooted in stoicism, authenticity, and emotional clarity. Imagine having the calm, unshakable confidence to know when his love is real. What would that change for you? Would it save you from heartache? Help you build deeper connections? Or maybe it would finally give you the peace of mind you've been craving? Love Stoic is here to guide you. Today, we'll reveal 7 secret words backed by psychology and real-world studies that men use only when they are truly in love. Each word unlocks a different level of emotional connection. Each word is a clue, a window into his heart. And once you see these clues, you cannot unsee them. This is your chance to shift from hoping for love. Casual daters talk about I and me. I went there last week. I think I want to travel this summer. My dream job is in New York. Notice the pattern. It's self-centered, and that's not necessarily a negative thing. It's normal when someone is still unattached, still unsure, still prioritizing their own journey. But when a man's emotional landscape begins to change, when he no longer sees his path as separate from yours, the language inevitably evolves. Suddenly, it's we should go there next time. We would have so much fun visiting Europe. We could start a business together someday. The subtlety is breathtaking, yet it signals an internal transformation far more powerful than any Instagram post or romantic date night could ever convey. Are you noticing it in your relationship? Has I quietly faded into we without fanfare, without being forced? That's no accident. It's one of the deepest indicators that you are no longer just a companion for the moment. You have become an integral part of his future vision. In a 2023 study conducted by the University of Texas, researchers analyzed speech patterns of couples at various stages of their relationships. What they found was compelling. Couples who naturally used we rather than I displayed significantly stronger emotional bonds, greater resilience during conflicts, and higher satisfaction levels over time. It wasn't about trying to sound inclusive. It was a natural linguistic outcome of truly merged lives. Think about it through the lens of stoicism. When 2 individuals willingly intertwine their fates, they understand that their emotional states, their decisions, and even their hardships are no longer isolated events. They share ownership of joy, of struggle, of growth. We becomes the acknowledgement that life is not lived in solitary battles, but in shared journeys. Ask yourself right now, does the man in your life speak as if you are his partner in crime, his co-pilot, his ally in facing whatever the world throws your way, or are you simply a delightful addition to his otherwise solo narrative? The Stoic mind does not cling to wishful thinking. It observes reality, accepts it, and acts accordingly. If you hear we spoken effortlessly, warmly as a natural part of his vision, you are witnessing an authentic emotional bond forming. If you do not, there's no need for despair, of struggle, of growth. We becomes the acknowledgement that life is not lived in solitary battles, but in shared journeys. Ask yourself right now, does the man in your life speak as if you are his partner in crime, his co-pilot, his ally in facing whatever the world throws your way? Or are you simply a delightful addition to his otherwise solo narrative? The Stoic mind does not cling to wishful thinking. It observes reality, accepts it, and acts accordingly. If you hear we spoken effortlessly, warmly as a natural part of his vision, you are witnessing an authentic emotional bond forming. If you do not, there's no need for despair. It's simply information, a map of where you stand. Why does the word we carry so much weight? Because it reflects a surrender of selfishness. It represents a man stepping beyond his personal comfort zone, expanding his sense of identity to include you. In a world driven by self-interest and fleeting distractions, finding someone willing to emotionally invest at that level is rare and precious. This is not about dependency. It's not about losing individuality. From the Stoic perspective, it's about voluntary union. 2 strong individuals choosing to walk together while maintaining their own core strength and virtue. Let's go deeper. When a man says we should plan a vacation, he is not just suggesting a trip. He is mentally preparing a shared memory, a collective experience that will further bond you. When he says we need to start thinking about where to move next year, He's envisioning a shared decision-making process. He sees the consequences of choices as something you both will face, not just him alone. Language reveals thought. Thought reveals priorities. Priorities reveal the heart. Consider this too. The man who speaks in we naturally protects and includes you without needing to be reminded. He will think of your preferences when making plans, your well-being when making decisions. Why? Because he no longer sees the world divided into his and yours. He sees it as ours, from a stoicism-informed view. This is profound because it shows an understanding of shared fate, the ultimate acceptance that life's uncertainties and fortunes will now be intertwined. If you're wondering, but what if he sometimes says I and sometimes says we? That's normal. Language is fluid. What matters is the pattern over time, are the moments that matter framed in we. Our decisions, dreams, setbacks, hopes shared rather than partitioned. Watch, listen, and do so with a clear, open heart, not clinging to illusions, but ready to recognize real love when it stands before you. That is the power of stoicism in relationships. It grounds you in reality, frees you from wishful illusions, and strengthens your discernment. The next time you are with him, listen carefully. When you talk about future plans, about adventures, about navigating challenges, does he default to we? Does he pull you into the circle of his ambitions? This small word carries a world of meaning. It is not just grammar. It is emotional blueprinting. Men who are only half invested don't naturally use we. They protect their autonomy, their exits, their options. Men who have decided, truly decided, that you are home, that you are part of the path ahead, cannot help but say, we, it becomes a natural extension of their heart's commitment. And if you recognize this shift, know this, it's not fleeting. Studies and real-world observations both confirm that once a man consistently incorporates we into his way of thinking, his attachment to you has moved from transient affection to long-term bonding. He doesn't just want to date you, he wants to build something with you. Something that weathers storms, celebrates triumphs, and endures beyond the initial spark of attraction. Love Stoic teaches us that relationships based on real emotional integrity are built not in the noisy declarations, but in the quiet, repeated choosing of each other. We is not a one-time statement. It is a continual, almost unconscious affirmation. Every time he says it, he is choosing you again, affirming the bond, deepening the commitment. And from a stoicism perspective, that consistent action, not emotional whimsy, is the true mark of enduring love. Pause for a moment and really reflect. How often have you longed for clarity and love? How often have you been trapped in confusion, wondering where you stand, recognizing we, when it appears naturally, without coercion, without performance, offers that clarity, stark, honest, liberating. It puts the power back in your hands. You no longer have to guess, to chase, to decode mixed signals. You simply observe and know. So now the question becomes, are you ready to trust what you observe? Are you ready to embrace the truth that's revealed, even if it means facing hard realities or accepting beautiful ones? Because Stoicism demands courage. The courage to see what is, not what we wish would be. The courage to build our lives on truth, not fantasy. And when it comes to love, there is no greater strength than recognizing true partnership when it's offered and having the wisdom to nurture it. As we continue this journey through the 7 secret words, remember each word we explore is another layer of emotional truth. Another key to unlocking deep, transformative love. We is only the beginning, but it's a beginning that changes everything. Stay grounded, stay observant, and let's move forward with the calm, powerful heart of the love. To future, envisioning a life together. Picture this, you're sitting across from him, maybe at your favorite coffee shop, maybe in the quiet of a late night drive, and he starts talking about his dreams, his plans, his vision for the years ahead. At first, you listen casually, nodding along, but then you notice something different, something powerful. He isn't just talking about himself, he's weaving you into his future. He doesn't say, I want to travel to Europe someday. He says, I can't wait until we take that trip to Europe together. He doesn't dream about buying a house alone. He talks about the house you will build together. This shift is monumental. It's not just optimism or wishful thinking. It's emotional investment of the deepest kind. From a Stoic perspective, talking about the future with another person is one of the bravest acts of emotional exposure. Why? Because the future is uncertain, unpredictable, uncontrollable. Yet, when a man voluntarily places you inside his vision for the unknown, he is doing something rare. He is willingly binding his fate to yours. And in the philosophy of Stoicism, fate or fathom is something to be accepted with courage and clarity, not avoided in fear. When a man speaks in we about the future, he is saying without embellishment, I am choosing you not just today, but tomorrow and beyond. Ask yourself, when you talk about long-term plans, how does he respond? Does he shy away? Change the ye subject. Throw out vague, non-committal phrases like, we'll see what happens, or I'm just taking things day by day. While flexibility is healthy, avoidance often signals emotional hesitation. In contrast, a man who is in love, who has truly committed to you internally, will naturally pull you into the architecture of his future dreams. He will say things like, I see us traveling the world together. In a few years, be building our home. When we have kids someday, I hope they have your smile. Listen closely. These are not scripted lines. They are spontaneous glimpses into how he mentally organizes his life, and you are at the center of it. From a Stoicism lens, this matters because it reflects a willingness to accept the uncertainties of life, not alone, but with a chosen partner. Stoic philosophy teaches us to prepare for life's unpredictability with virtue, resilience, and grace. When a man talks about you and his future, he is not denying that life may throw curveballs. He is declaring that whatever happens, he envisions facing it with you. This is the kind of emotional maturity that Love Stoic strives to illuminate. Grounded love that doesn't fear the future, but embraces it with clarity and strength. Psychological studies back this up too. A 2021 report from the G-Man Institute found that couples who openly discussed future plans, even casually, had an 80% higher chance of staying together long term. Why? Because future planning language signals alignment of values, shared goals, and emotional security. It's not about setting rigid timelines or creating pressure. It's about the natural inclusion of each other in the most important journey of all, life itself. Think about the most powerful relationships you've observed. Not the flashy Instagram couples, but the real ones. The ones who seem steady, unshakable. Their bond was almost always built on a shared future narrative, one that gave meaning to the challenges they faced together. Let's reflect. Does the man you're with include you? Naturally, when he dreams aloud, does he say, we'll travel, we'll grow, we'll overcome? Or is his future speech a monologue where you are conspicuously absent? This isn't about forcing conversations or demanding validation. It's about observing the natural flow of his words. Stoicism teaches us that emotional wisdom comes not from controlling others, but from mastering our own perceptions, from seeing clearly without illusion. If he places you in his future, it's a gift freely given, a genuine extension of his love. But why is envisioning a shared future so powerful? Because it ties into one of the deepest human needs, the desire for belonging, for continuity, for purpose beyond ourselves. When a man dreams of a life with you, he is expressing that you are not just a passing comfort. You are integral to his sense of meaning, and that is rare. In today's fast-paced, disposable culture, genuine future talk is gold. It is a beacon of sincerity in a sea of superficiality. Now, you might ask, what if he's scared of commitment? What if he says he needs more time? Those are valid concerns. Emotional timing is complex. But even then, notice, does he want to imagine you there someday, even if he's not ready to rush? Or does he carefully keep you at arm's length in every future scenario? The difference is subtle but unmistakable if you observe with a Stoic heart, calm, curious, non-attached. Love Stoic encourages you not to rush judgment, but to remain alert, discerning, wise. There is also another layer to this. Envisioning a future together isn't just about love. It's about trust. Trust that you will both grow, evolve, and still choose each other. Trust that even when difficulties arise, and they will, as Stoicism reminds us, the bond will hold. When a man sees you in his future, he is betting on both of you, on the resilience of your connection, not on the temporary highs of the present moment. That is the essence of love, rooted in strength rather than fleeting passion. So if you hear him speak about our future, take a moment to let that reality sink in. Don't gloss over it. Don't minimize it. Recognize it for what it is. A profound signal of emotional investment, a bridge between now and the countless unknowns of tomorrow. And ask yourself honestly, do you want to be part of the future he envisions? Love. Stoic teaches us that love is not about losing ourselves in another person, but about walking side by side, aligned in purpose, resilient against the storms of life. As we move forward in this journey through the 7 secret words, I want you to hold on to this realization. True love is not just about surviving the present together. It's about consciously building a shared future day by day, word by word, promise by promise. That's the path of stoicism in relationships. That's the path of enduring, transformative love. And if you're feeling the truth of this in your bones right now, if this resonates with the wisdom you've always felt deep down but couldn't yet articulate, let's make this a conversation, not a monologue. If you're enjoying this exploration with Love Stoic and finding it empowering, I invite you to like this video, comment number 1 down below to show you're here with us, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another deep dive into the real powerful truths about love. Your journey to deeper love and deeper stoicism starts here, and we're only just getting started. 3. Home, finding comfort and belonging in you. Imagine a moment at the end of a long, exhausting day when all the chaos of the world has stripped away the masks, the ambitions, the battles fought in silence. Where does his mind go? Or what does he crave in that raw, unguarded moment? If the answer is you, then understand this. You have become more than just a girlfriend, more than a companion. You have become his home. Not a house, not a structure made of bricks and walls, but a place of emotional belonging, of inner refuge. And few things in life are as powerful as this transformation. When a man truly loves you, when his love transcends convenience and lust, he stops seeing home as a location and starts feeling it as a presence, your presence. Understanding sits at the very core of Stoicism. External possessions, status, achievements are fleeting and vulnerable to fortune's whims. But the internal state of feeling anchored at peace, rooted, that is true wealth. And so when a man associates you with home, he is revealing his deepest, most stoic longing to find in you what the external world can never consistently provide. Unwavering acceptance, connection, sanctuary. Ask yourself, without rushing to answer, do you feel him relax when he is around you? Not just socially, not just physically, but emotionally. Does he seem lighter, freer, more himself? Does he confide his fears, his aspirations, his failures without fear of judgment? If he does, then understand the magnitude of what you are witnessing. It is easy for a man to show the polished version of himself to the world. It is rare for him to disarm voluntarily. And Stoic, it is strength in its purest form because it is chosen consciously and offered freely. A man who sees you as home is not seeking you for escape. He is seeking you for restoration. Your presence, he finds a reminder of who he is at his core, stripped of pretenses, ambitions, and fears. From the psychological standpoint, a 2018 case study published in the Journal of Marriage and Family found that men in deeply fulfilling, committed relationships consistently describe their partners not merely as lovers, but as their primary emotional anchor points. Words like safe, whole, my real self appeared over and over again when these men spoke about their significant others. And pay close attention. These descriptions didn't center around excitement, novelty, or even admiration. They centered around peace. Peace is not the absence of challenges. It is the presence of security in the face of them. And when a man says, you feel like home to me, or being with you is like coming home, it is one of the highest forms of emotional commitment he can express. It is not flashy. It does not come with fireworks or dramatic declarations. It is quiet, steady, profound. And from the perspective of Stoicism, what greater achievement could there be than to create a refuge that withstands the unpredictable tempest of life? Think deeper now. How does he act when he is hurt, when he failed, when life has beaten him down? Does he withdraw into isolation, or does he reach for you even if silently? simply by wanting to be near you. A man in love seeks not to be rescued, but to be reminded of his worth, his essence, his resilience. Love Stoic teaches that being someone's home is not about carrying their burdens for them. It is about offering a space where burdens are lighter simply because they are shared. Home is where flaws are not hidden, where ambitions are nurtured, where sorrows are understood without needing explanation. This dynamic is not one-sided. If you observe him carefully, you will notice that he also seeks to be your home, a safe space for you to be unapologetically yourself. It is a mutual sanctuary, a shared fortress against the world's inevitable uncertainties. Stoicism teaches us to rely on inner fortitude, but it also honors the wisdom of chosen bonds that amplify that strength rather than diminish it. A man who considers you his home values you not for the role you play, but for the emotional reality you represent. Consistency, acceptance, authenticity. Another important reflection. When a man truly feels at home with you, his language shifts not just towards expressions of comfort, but towards rituals of return. Pay attention to small details. He talks about coming home to you, missing you, feeling off when you are apart. These are not surface-level sentiments. These are deep-rooted attachments that mirror the human need for grounding. Home is not about perfection. It is about recognition, recognizing someone who sees you fully and chooses you still day after day, moment after moment. In the philosophy of Stoicism, external events will always be unpredictable. But the inner sanctuary we create with another person, when it is based on virtue, trust, and authentic connection, becomes a powerful stabilizing force against the chaos. Ask yourself honestly, when he faces decisions, both large and small, does he seek your counsel not out of obligation, but because your perspective feels like home to him? Familiar, wise, grounding. When life tests him, does he instinctively want to share those moments with you? Not because he needs saving, but because being near you strengthens his resolve. If the answers lean towards yes, you are not merely witnessing affection. You are witnessing the formation of sacred emotional shelter, a bond that Stoicism would view as one of life's highest, most rewarding achievements. And understand this, a man's attachment to the feeling of home grows over time, deepening through shared experiences, both joyful and painful. It is tested in trials, it is tempered in adversity, and it is affirmed in the quiet, mundane moments that most people overlook. Anyone can say, "I love you" during a sunset or a celebration, but to say in words or actions, "You are my home," when life is messy, when tempers are frayed, when dreams are delayed, that is love forged through resilience and true emotional maturity. As you move forward, carry this awareness with you. When evaluating the depth of a man's love, ask not only does he desire me, but more importantly, does he return to me emotionally, spiritually, when he seeks to be his truest self? This is the measure of love that Stoicism recognizes as worthy. Love that provides refuge without demanding surrender. Love that fosters freedom without risking abandonment. Love that strengthens both individuals without weakening either. Love Stoic teaches that to be a true home, someone is a sacred responsibility not to complete them, but to remind them that they are already whole. It is not a position to be taken lightly, nor to be granted without discernment. And when you find a man who sees you in this way, who feels an almost gravitational pull toward you in times of joy and despair alike, cherish it, honor it, and understand it for the rare gift it truly is. Home is not found. It is built through trust, patience, shared values, and unwavering presence. It is not the result of convenience, but the reward of conscious daily choice. In the grand journey we are taking through these 7 secret words, understand that home stands as a pivotal point, a crossing from affection into enduring emotional devotion. It is not the flashy spark that ignites new relationships, but the steady flame that keeps them alive through storms, doubts, and time. It is the word assurance that whatever life may bring, you have already found your place. Not in a location, but in a soul. This is the Stoicism of love. Recognizing that while we cannot control external circumstances, we can cultivate internal sanctuaries with those rare souls who see us, accept us, and choose us again and again without needing to be asked. And there is no greater treasure than that. 4, trust, building emotional security. What is the foundation that holds every great love story together? The invisible thread that weaves two souls into a resilient bond. It is not passion alone, nor is it constant excitement. It is trust, pure and simple, yet profound and enduring. Without trust, no relationship can truly survive the storms of life. Without trust, love remains shallow, fragile, easily shattered, and when a man loves you with depth, when his connection to you transcends momentary desire, he will not only feel trust for you, he will speak of it openly and without hesitation. Trust is a pillar of stoicism, a commitment to truth, to clarity, to living with honor towards oneself and towards others. So when a man uses the word trust with you, he is not making a casual statement. He is revealing the core of his. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control others' actions, but we can control the dignity with which we approach relationships. Trust is not blindness. It is the courageous decision to meet another human being with openness, accepting that pain is always a possibility, yet choosing connection anyway. So when a man trusts you truly and deeply, it signals that he has stepped beyond self-preservation into authentic emotional commitment. Ask yourself this with raw honesty. Does he involve you in decisions that matter to him? Does he share his fears, his uncertainties without fearing your judgment? Does he speak of mutual trust not as a vague ideal, but as a lived daily reality? These are not trivial markers. They are the fingerprints of true love. A man who sees you as a temporary pleasure will protect his emotional fortress. He will avoid deep conversations, evade topics that reveal vulnerability, and keep you outside the circle of his real-life decisions. It's offered because both parties embody the virtues that make trust possible: honesty, courage, integrity. If you find that he trusts you enough to show you his unpolished truths, if he invites you into the places where he feels most unsure, if he listens to your advice when he stands at a crossroads, then understand you are not just part of his world, you are part of his moral compass. And few honors are greater than that. A 2019 relationship survey revealed that couples who frequently use the language of trust, openly affirming belief in each other's choices, honoring each other's confidence, were significantly more likely to report long-term happiness, emotional safety, and resilience during periods of crisis. This aligns perfectly with the Stoic principle that strong relationships are forged in the ability to withstand external chaos without internal collapse. Trust is the mechanism through which two people become each other's steady harbor amid life's inevitable storms. Observe without judgment when he is under pressure, when he faces challenges, when life does not go as planned. Does he trust you with his raw, unfiltered reality? Does he believe that your loyalty will not waver even when circumstances do? Love Stoic teaches that emotional security is not born from fantasy. It is earned through consistent demonstration of trustworthiness. And a man who speaks of trust, who invites you into, and in turn, it challenges you to rise to the highest version of yourself, to be dependable, compassionate, fiercely loyal to what is real, not what is convenient. Now reflect on this quietly. Has he ever turned to you in moments of doubt? Not seeking solutions, but seeking presence. Has he ever spoken of you as someone he relies on, someone he respects, someone whose judgment and heart he holds above the noise of the world? If so, then recognize the magnitude of that gift. Trust is not easily given, especially in a world that often rewards cynicism over courage. It is a rare and precious offering, one that should never be taken for granted. And yet, Stoicism also teaches us that trust must not make us complacent. It is not a static achievement, but a living, breathing dynamic requiring continual nurturing through honest communication, consistency, and unwavering respect. When trust is maintained, when it grows deeper with time, rather than decaying under the weight of small betrayals, the relationship it anchors becomes nearly unbreakable. Like a tree that bends but does not break under the winds of misfortune. A love founded on trust can endure what lesser bonds cannot. So if you hear the word trust spoken in your relationship, if you see it reflected in his actions as well as his words, know that you are standing on sacred ground. Few things in life are as beautiful or as stoically virtuous as a bond where two people choose day after day to believe in each other's goodness, even when life's shadows creep near. It is not naivety. It is strength. It is not fantasy. It is the highest realism, the understanding that love without trust is merely attachment, but love with trust is transcendence. As we continue unfolding these 7 secret words, remember that trust is not just one of many ingredients. It is the very atmosphere that allows real love to breathe and flourish. It is the oxygen of emotional intimacy. Without it, all other words are hollow. When he speaks to you, is his focus superficial or penetrating? Does he inquire about your deeper world or merely skim the surface? Stoicism teaches us that attention is the purest form of generosity. It cannot be faked. It cannot be mass-reduced. It is given consciously and it is irreplaceable. A man who loves you deeply will anchor his presence in you when you speak. He will not be distracted by his phone, by passing thoughts, by the noise of the external world. His you will land with weight because it carries his full awareness. A 2020 study from Harvard University revealed a striking pattern. Men who were emotionally invested in their partners used the word you 50% more often in natural conversation than those who were not. But it wasn't just about frequency. It was about intent. It was about emotional attunement in conversations that mattered. These men consistently centered their partner's experience, demonstrating that true love is as much about listening as it is about speaking. Consider this. In a world flooded with distractions where attention is fragmented and shallow, the gift of undivided presence is revolutionary. To truly see someone, to say you and mean it, is an act of emotional rebellion against a culture obsessed with self. From the Stoic viewpoint, such attention is a virtue, a discipline, a daily practice of recognizing the humanity of another without distortion or selfishness. And it is in this practice that love becomes real. Not in grand gestures, not in extravagant gifts, but in the consistent, unwavering act of presence. So when you hear you spoken with authenticity, when you feel the genuine pull of his curiosity towards your inner world, understand that you are witnessing one of the clearest signs of real mature love. Think deeply. Does he ask about your day not out of habit, but out of sincere interest? Does he remember the small details you share even when they seem insignificant? Does he show concern for your challenges, your victories, your private battles? These are the silent tests that reveal the truth of a man's heart. In Stoicism, words without action are nothing. It is the alignment of speech and behavior that defines integrity. A man who speaks of you but acts selfishly is not loving. He is performing. But a man who speaks of you and follows it with consistent care, patience, and support is building something rare, something resilient. There is another dimension here that cannot be ignored. When a man centers you in his language, he is also decentering himself. This is a radical act because ego is the default setting of human nature. We are wired to prioritize our own needs, our own stories. But love, as Stoicism teaches, is the voluntary act of placing another's well-being alongside, not above, not below, but alongside our own. True love recognizes the sovereignty of the other without losing the self. It does not diminish the individual. It elevates the connection. Notice also how you changes during moments of conflict. When a man is defensive, when he sees you as a threat to his ego, you can become a weapon. You always do this. You never understand me. But when a man loves you deeply, when he sees you with the clarity and compassion that Stoicism demands, even in conflict, you becomes a bridge, not a barrier. He says, I see that you're hurt. Help me understand what you're feeling. I care about how this is affecting you. The maturity to maintain connection under stress. The discipline to prioritize understanding over victory. These are the hallmarks of a man who truly values you. Ask yourself now in quiet honesty, when you are joyful, when you are struggling, when you are simply existing, does he see you? Does he honor your experience as uniquely yours, not as an extension of his own desires? Love Stoic teaches that true love is not consumption. It is recognition. It is the decision renewed daily to meet the other as they are without needing to remake them in one's own image. It is patience with their growth, tenderness with their wounds, and respect for their autonomy. And yet, Stoicism reminds us not to be naive. Attention must be consistent, not sporadic. Anyone can offer bursts of focused care during the honeymoon phase, but a man who truly values you will offer it steadily, even when the novelty fades. Even when life becomes heavy and complicated, his you will not diminish with time. It will deepen, become richer, more textured, because love that endures is not built on initial fascination, but on persistent devotion. Let's explore a deeper layer. When he uses you sincerely, he is also offering you a mirror. Through his attentive language, he helps you see your own worth, your own power, your own capacity for greatness. This is not codependence. It is the gift of reflection. We all need mirrors that are honest yet kind, that show us not only who we are, but who we are becoming. A man who truly loves you with a stoic heart does not idolize you. He sees you fully, accepts you completely, and encourages you continually. There is profound strength in being seen. There is healing in being valued without pretense. And in that seeing, in that valuing, transcends the fleeting passions of youth and becomes a lifelong foundation. When you hear you in his sentences spoken with respect, with admiration, with unwavering attention, you are hearing a sacred promise. I see you, I honor you, I walk with you. Not ahead, not behind, but beside. As we continue on this journey through the 7 secret words, never underestimate the transformative power of being truly seen. In a noisy world, to be heard is precious. In a distracted world, to be noticed is rare. In a selfish world, to be valued is revolutionary. And when a man gives you this, his presence, his attention, his consistent use, he is offering a love that Stoicism would call not mere emotion, but virtuous action. Remember always, it is easy to love someone's beauty, someone's success, someone's charm. It is infinitely harder and infinitely more meaningful to love their real, imperfect, evolving self. And that is the love you deserve. The love Stoic stands for the love that sees you, cherishes you, and grows with you into the future. 6, mind, cherishing the bond. There are few words more misunderstood, more misused, and yet more revealing in love than the word mine. In a world obsessed with independence and autonomy, mine can sound possessive, controlling, even suffocating if interpreted through the wrong lens. But in the purest form of love, in the Stoic, mature love that recognizes individual sovereignty and yet chooses union, mine transforms into a sacred vow, an acknowledgement of irreplaceable value. When a man who truly loves you calls you mine, he is not asserting dominance over you. He is expressing profound emotional belonging. He is saying, without artifice, without pretense, that among all the souls he could know, you are the one he treasures most. From a Stoicism perspective, this is critical to understand. To cherish something deeply, while accepting that it is never truly under your control. That is the heart of virtuous love. When he says, she's mine, or that's my girl, with warmth, affection, and pride, he is celebrating, not owning. He is revealing that his identity has willingly and consciously intertwined with yours. Reflect for a moment. When he refers to you in conversations, both public and private, what words does he choose? Does he distance himself, keeping you categorized, labeled, detached? Or does he naturally, effortlessly speak of you as his? The Stoic mind recognizes that emotional belonging is not about control. It is about chosen loyalty, about the brave daily reaffirmation that despite the infinite uncertainties of life, this connection matters more than transient pleasures, more than fleeting distractions. Love Stoic teaches that real love is not a transaction of needs, but a recognition of souls. When a man calls you mine with reverence and respect, he is not shrinking you. He is honoring you as an essential part of his existence. In a 2015 relationship psychology report, it was found that men who affectionately and respectfully claimed their partners as mine without possessiveness, without jealousy, were far more likely to demonstrate long-term commitment, emotional protection, and resilience during conflict. This finding aligns seamlessly with the Stoic principle that what we cherish, we must never seek to control, but rather to nurture, to strengthen, to stand beside. Thus, when he speaks of you as mine, he is revealing a sacred emotional bond, a sanctuary of mutual recognition and shared destiny. Think now with clarity. Does he use mine, not out of fear of losing you, but out of joy in having found you? Does his pride in calling you his partner come from a place of deep appreciation rather than insecurity? These distinctions are subtle but vital. A man ruled by fear will consider also how mind surfaces during moments of vulnerability, in times of challenge, when relationships are tested by distance, by disagreements, by the pressures of life. A man who truly cherishes you will still instinctively reach for mine, not as a weapon, but as a reminder to himself that no hardship diminishes the bond, no temporary anger erases the foundation. He will say, "You're mine," not to silence you, not to claim ownership, but to reaffirm the invisible thread that ties his heart to yours. It is a declaration, quietly stoic in nature, that despite life's flux, some truths remain anchored. Now ask yourself with unwavering honesty, does he stand by you proudly, unashamedly, when circumstances challenge the easy, comfortable parts of love? Does he declare your place in his life, not just when it is convenient, but when it costs him ego, comfort, certainty? Because it is in these moments, not in the smooth seasons, that the real meaning of mind reveals itself. Stoicism teaches that virtue is proven under pressure, not in ease. Similarly, love's depth is revealed not when it is easy to love, but when it is hard and chosen anyway. Let's explore even deeper when he says mine. Is there joy in his eyes? Is there a calm certainty in his voice? Is there a silent promise that he will guard the sanctity of your bond with courage and loyalty? If so, you are standing before one of the rarest and most beautiful expressions of love. To be claimed in love, not as property, but as a treasure, is to be seen fully and accepted wholly. It is a love that says, you are part of my life's meaning without erasing either person's individuality. And yet, Stoicism cautions us. Do not confuse insecure attachment with true cherishing, jealousy, paranoia, control. These are not signs of love. They are signs of fear masquerading as love. True mind is peaceful, not anxious. It expands both partners, not constrains them. It builds, it does not diminish. Love Stoic stands firmly on this truth. To be called mine by someone who respects your freedom, honors your journey, and still chooses you every day. That is not a cage, that is a cathedral. Think now about how he speaks of your partnership to others. Does he shield it with privacy, but not secrecy? Does he honor it with loyalty without flaunting it for external validation? True mind needs no applause, no performance. It needs only presence, constancy, and reverence. It is a quiet, steady flame that says, no matter where life takes us, you are part of my chosen life, and I will honor that bond in thought, word, and action. And perhaps the most powerful reflection of all, when he says mine, does it inspire you to say yours not out of obligation, not out of fear, but out of the natural outpouring of your own heart? Stoicism teaches that virtuous love is reciprocal. It feeds both souls without draining either. If his cherishing of you awakens a deeper cherishing within yourself for him, then you are not merely loved. You are deeply, authentically bonded. And that is a treasure beyond all fleeting pleasures, beyond all superficial achievement. As we journey through the 7 secret words that reveal true love, understand that mine stands as a sacred testimony. It is not a possession, it is a pledge. It is not about ownership, it is about belonging. It is not about fear of loss. It is about gratitude for presence. It is love speaking through the Stoic heart, calm, certain, unwavering. And if what we are uncovering together resonates with you, if you feel the truth of this powerful Stoic way of love awakening something deep within your spirit, I invite you right now to like this video. Comment number 1 below to let us know you're embracing this journey with us. And subscribe to Love Stoic to continue growing in the wisdom and strength that lead to enduring, transformative love. There's still more to unveil, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. 7. Always thinking long-term. There is a profound, almost sacred power contained in the word always. In a world where promises are often fleeting, where relationships are too easily measured in weeks and months rather than decades, the very idea of always feels almost radical. It challenges the modern culture of temporary attachments and shifting loyalties. And yet, for a man who truly loves you, who sees you not as a momentary chapter, but as a permanent part of his life's narrative, becomes not a dramatic gesture, but a quiet, steady vow. When he says, I'll always be here for you, you'll always have me, or I always want you to be happy, he is not predicting the future with naivety. He is committing to a way of being, a constancy of heart that transcends circumstance. From the Stoic point of view, this is one of the highest virtues, the discipline to remain faithful, consistent, and true, even when life storms rage unpredictably. In Stoicism, external events are beyond our control, but our commitments, our principles, our chosen loyalties, these are within our domain. Thus, when a man says always and means it, he is offering not an illusion of certainty, but a promise of perseverance. Reflect carefully. In his language, does he speak of endurance, of steadfastness, of loyalty, not contingent on mood, on convenience, or on circumstance? These are not casual words. In Stoicism, fleeting passions are seen as inferior to enduring virtue. Similarly, in love, temporary affection is easily given. But enduring love, the kind that weathers distance, hardship, disappointment, is rare and precious. When a man weaves always into his expressions of care, he is signaling that he does not see your bond as conditional upon perfect days and smooth sailing. He sees it as a sacred trust that he will uphold even when love demands effort, sacrifice, and resilience. A 2017 study from the University of California, Los Angeles, found that men who consistently framed their commitments with words like always were statistically far more likely to sustain long-term fulfilling relationships. Why? Because always reframes love from an emotion, gesto, a continual act of will aligned with deeper values. Stoicism mirrors this beautifully. Emotions may rise and fall like waves, but virtue once chosen remains the guiding star. So too, with love grounded in always, it does not depend on the emotional weather of the moment, but on a deeply rooted choice to stay, to nurture, to protect. Ask yourself with clear eyes, does he speak of your bond with terms that imply permanence? Does he say, I'm with you, I've got you, I'm not going anywhere? Or are his words hesitant, conditional, ambiguous? While caution is natural early in relationships, as love deepens, the language should evolve naturally towards stability, towards the calm assurance of presence. Love Stoic teaches that real love speaks in certainties, not because it denies life's uncertainties, but because it commits to facing them together. Think also about his behavior. Does it align with the spirit of always? Because Stoicism reminds us that words alone are nothing without congruent action. A man can say always 1,000 times, but it is in his showing up, in his patience during conflicts, in his small daily acts of loyalty, that the true meaning of always is revealed. It is when he listens, even when tired, supports even when busy, defends your bond even when challenged, that you see the living proof of his promise. Always is not a grand proclamation. It is 1,000 small choices made every day without fanfare. There is a quiet nobility in this kind of love. It does not seek attention. It does not demand constant acknowledgement. It simply exists strong and unwavering, like a tree whose roots run so deep that no storm can uproot it. This is the kind of bond Stoicism rever. Not flashy, not loud, but endearing, resilient, steady. In a world of temporary infatuations, to find someone whose love speaks of always is to find a rare treasure indeed. Consider, too, how always reveals itself in adversity. When challenges arise, and they inevitably will, does he lean in, not away? Does he fight for understanding rather than for pride? Does he choose unity over distance? These moments, more than the easy ones, are where the reality of always is tested and proven. Stoicism teaches that hardship does not create virtue, but reveals it. Similarly, hardship does not create real love, but unmasks it. And a love that carries always in its core will not fracture under pressure. It will deepen. Now reflect quietly. When he talks about growing old, about facing life's chapters together, about building something that lasts, does his voice carry the weight of commitment? Does his presence feel like a home that will still stand when the seasons change? When life's external markers of success and excitement fade away, Love Stoic believes in building relationships that are not dependent on constant stimulation, but are rooted in shared values, mutual respect, and unwavering dedication. Always is the language of such bonds. Another dimension to consider always is not just about staying, it's about growing together. True always means evolving individually while maintaining the bond. It means supporting each other's dreams, even as those dreams expand and transform. It means celebrating each other's victories and providing strength during each other's defeats. It means never becoming complacent, but always striving to be a better partner, a better human being. In this way, always is not static. It is dynamic, alive, full of movement and renewal. Stoicism teaches that nothing truly valuable can be passive. It must be maintained through conscious effort, through deliberate choice. Love is no different. To say, I will always love you, is to say, I will always choose to love you again and again across different seasons, through different challenges in the face of inevitable change. It is a beautiful, courageous act of will. And when a man offers you this through both his words and his deeds, he is offering you a love that does not fear time, but embraces it. Think now about how you yourself experience always. Do you feel safe enough to dream big within the relationship? Do you feel free to be vulnerable, knowing that your vulnerabilities will not be used against you? Do you feel encouraged to become the fullest version of yourself, knowing that his love will not diminish if you change, if you grow, if you evolve? These are the real fruits of a love rooted in always, not stagnation, but liberation, not complacency, but deep abiding partnership. And so as we come to the close of this reflection on the 7 secret word, let us remember always is not a promise of perfect days. It is a commitment to walk through imperfect days together. It is not a denial of life's hardships. It is the courage to face them with another soul at your side. It is not a shield against suffering. It is a vow that no suffering will be faced alone. In the philosophy of Stoicism, this is the highest, most enduring kind of human connection. One that accepts fate, welcomes growth, and chooses love. Not once, but always. Love is not built on grand, dramatic moments, but on the quiet power of small, consistent truths. Throughout this journey, we have uncovered the 7 secret words that men use only when they are truly in love. We, future, home, trust, you, mine, and always. Each of these words is not just a slip of the tongue. Each is a window into a man's deepest emotional reality, a testament to the bond he feels, the bond he is willing to fight for. Love Stoic reminds us that real love is not about fireworks or fleeting passion. It is about a commitment to see, to honor, to build, and to protect something sacred over time. It is easy to get swept away by shallow gestures, to mistake intensity for depth. But the true markers of love are found in the way he speaks, the way he thinks, the way he includes you, sees you, chooses you, and plans for a future with you. And the beauty of these signs is that they cannot be faked over the long haul. They emerge naturally, effortlessly, when a man's heart is truly engaged. Through the lens of Stoicism, we understand that to love well is to love with strength, with clarity, with resilience, to make a daily choice even in adversity, to be present, to be loyal, to be unwavering. These 7 words are your map, your compass in a world filled with confusion and noise. Use them wisely. Observe without fear and allow yourself to recognize the real thing when it stands before you. You deserve a love that does not fluctuate with the weather, a love that is not conditional upon perfection, a love that sees you entirely and embraces you fully. If today's exploration resonated with you, if you feel that powerful shift inside where clarity replaces confusion, I invite you to take a moment and like this video. Comment number 1 down below if you feel stronger and more empowered. Buy these truths and subscribe to Love Stoic so you never miss another deep dive into the kind of love that transforms lives. Thank you for being here, for investing in yourself, for choosing wisdom over illusion. Stay strong, stay discerning, and above all, stay true to the love you deserve. Have you ever looked at a man's silence and mistaken it for peace? Ever wondered if the one who once seemed so invested in you could really walk away and never look back? It's one of the most emotionally disorienting experiences for any woman when a man disappears, doesn't reach out, doesn't fight, doesn't explain. It feels final, it feels cold, and yet something in you whispers, this isn't the full story. What if I told you that silence isn't always indifference? Sometimes it's the loudest scream a man can make. Here's the problem. We've been conditioned to read male silence as detachment, that if he isn't chasing, he must be over it, that if he's not crying in front of us, he doesn't feel pain. But that belief, it's a trap, a widely accepted, emotionally expensive misconception. Because the truth is, male suffering rarely looks the way we expect it to. It doesn't always arrive in messages, tears, or drama. Often, it hides in plain sight, in avoidance, in contradictions, in forced smiles, in Instagram stories. He hopes you'll watch, but swears aren't for you. Let me ask you, have you ever seen a man act like he's completely over you, but everything about him feels just a little too curated? Have you felt that strange tension when he's in the same room, but won't meet your eye? Yet somehow you still feel him watching. If any of that resonates with you, you're not crazy. You're just picking up on the emotional language men often don't know how to speak out loud. This isn't about playing games or decoding mixed signals. This is about emotional truth, about helping you understand what stoicism in male behavior often really means. Not coldness, but controlled chaos. Not detachment, but disciplined pain. And that's what this video is here to give you: a road map into the invisible emotional battlefield many men walk through alone, especially after losing a woman who mattered. And let me be clear, these signs aren't assumptions. They're not guesswork. They come from patterns deeply rooted in masculine psychology and human behavior. This is about understanding grief that refuses to show itself, learning how to see what's hidden behind the silence. So here's what you're about to get: 7 unshakably accurate signs that he's still suffering in silence, and no, he'll never tell you. You'll discover why he pulls away, but never lets go, why he blocks you, but still watches you, why he seems better than ever, but can't feel a damn thing. Each sign will not only open your eyes to what he's really going through, but also reflect something powerful back to you. Because if you can understand this, you won't just understand him, you'll understand what it means to truly hold emotional power with grace, with wisdom, and with what we call in this space love stoic. And trust me, you'll want to stay to the very end, because the final sign, it's the one that explains everything. It's the one that once you see it, changes how you see male silence forever. Ready to know what most women never realize until it's too late? Let's begin one. He avoids you in person, but can't stop watching you from a distance. There's a certain kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, but from emotional overload, a kind of silence that looks like avoidance on the surface, but is really self-preservation at its core. And when it comes to men, that silence is often misread. You see, when a man truly no longer feels anything, he doesn't look away. He simply doesn't look at all. But when he still feels something and doesn't know how to manage it, his eyes betray what his words never will. That's the paradox. The man who still suffers because of you won't come near, you won't reach out, won't speak, won't even breathe in your direction if he can help it. But he won't stop observing. He becomes like a shadow that vanishes the moment you turn around, yet you know it was there. You can feel it. That presence, that weight, that attention cloaked in stillness, and this behavior, watching from afar while maintaining emotional distance, isn't a passive act. It's an act of restraint, of discipline, of internal chaos, being tightly gripped by stoicism. He knows that being near you might reopen emotional wounds. He hasn't stitched up yet. So he keeps space, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares too much. Because in his inner world, proximity equals vulnerability. And vulnerability to him is dangerous when he sees you in the same room. His body reacts, his chest tightens, his mind races, questions rise like smoke. Do you miss him? Are you happier now? Do you still think of him? Have you moved on? His pride says not to care. His instincts say not to look, but he can't help it. He looks not just to see you, but to study you. What are you wearing? How are you smiling? Who are you standing next to? He absorbs these details not because he's nosy, but because his emotional processing now happens from a distance. The safest way for him to feel is to do so without getting caught. So he watches when you're not looking and when you catch him. Because let's be honest, you feel it before you see it. He turns away quickly, pretends it meant nothing. But inside, his emotional alarm system goes off. This behavior, confusing as it is not inconsistent. It's intentional. Even if it's subconscious, it's his way of measuring what used to be his. And you might ask, if he still feels something, why not just come talk to me? Why doesn't he just say what's on his mind? The answer lies in the emotional cost for many men, especially those who internalize pain deeply. Speaking about emotions isn't just difficult, it's threatening. Stoicism has taught them to preserve face to avoid collapse. Reaching out means risking rejection. Risking rejection means risking ego death. So instead, he builds distance, emotional barricades, not out of hate or resentment, but to survive. His nervous system is still tied to you. But his pride says to remain unmoved, that conflict is why you see him looking and avoiding at the same time. And the tragedy is you might take his silence as disinterest, but real detachment doesn't need to keep checking in. Real detachment doesn't scan the room for your face or your energy. The man who watches without speaking is the man still emotionally involved. Love, stoic in its deepest form, is the art of feeling without begging to be felt back. And this man, this silent observer, has mastered it, even if it's breaking him inside, because suffering in silence is still suffering. And there's a kind of heartbreak that only grows stronger in solitude. When you're around, his emotions stir. When you're gone, he rewatches the moments not through photos, but through memory. Through imagination, through tiny snapshots of you in motion. He might look like he's ignoring you. He might act indifferent. He might nod briefly or avoid eye contact. But his body is paying attention. His energy is still tied to yours, even if his words are gone. And here's where it gets even more complex. The more calm, centered, and grounded you are in his presence, the more he feels it. Emotional maturity to a man still in emotional conflict is deeply magnetic. When you don't react with bitterness, when you don't chase or provoke or beg for acknowledgement, you become an emotional mirror in your stillness. He sees his own storm. That contrast triggers reflection, sometimes even regret, because your presence is no longer chaotic. It's composed. And to a man silently suffering, that composure is a mirror of what he's lost and what he hasn't been able to replace. This is why you must resist the temptation to confront, to chase, or to match his avoidance with coldness, not because he deserves softness, but because you deserve sovereignty. Reacting makes it about him centering, makes it about you and love. Stoic teaches us that true strength is not in demanding closure or control. It's in remaining deeply rooted in your own peace, even while the other person spins in confusion. So the next time you catch him watching you but pretending not to care, remember he is feeling everything you think he's ignoring. And his silence isn't absence, it's armor. Armor against the vulnerability that once cracked him open, and until he's ready to lower that guard, he'll keep watching from the safety of emotional distance. But don't misread that distance. It isn't detachment, it's discipline. It's his way of staying close enough to still feel, but far enough to not fall apart. And if you've reached a place of stillness yourself, you don't need to respond. You don't need to seek him out or decode every glance. Just observe, just exist. Let your presence remind him of what he once had access to and what his silence now costs him daily. That in itself is a form of response. That is love stoic. That is emotional leadership. That is the quiet power of being seen, felt, and remembered without saying a single word too. He posts content that feels like secret messages just for you. There's a quiet digital war happening every day on his social media feed. A war not between him and the world, but between him and himself. If you've ever scrolled through his Instagram or seen his stories pop up out of nowhere after weeks of silence and thought, is that about me? You're not imagining it. Because when a man is suffering in silence but doesn't have the courage or clarity to speak directly to you, he speaks in code, and his favorite battlefield, the curated illusions of social media, the quotes he posts, the song lyrics that sound just a little too familiar, the pictures with oddly timed captions, none of this is random. These are emotional artifacts. They're indirect confessions, dressed as casual content. His grid becomes a canvas for everything he doesn't know how to say out loud. Because let's face it, if he didn't want you to see it, you wouldn't. There are 1,000 ways to hide a post, block an audience, or exclude one particular person. But he doesn't do that. He wants you to see it. No, he needs you to see it. But he needs it to appear like he doesn't. That's the emotional paradox of a man in pain who still wants to preserve his pride. And pride, as you know, is often the most heavily guarded gate to male vulnerability. He might post a quote about letting go of people who don't value you, or a song that describes exactly the kind of pain you once shared. He might post a picture looking his best with a caption that sounds like freedom, but reads like loneliness. The post says thriving, but the eyes say aching. The smile looks stretched. The vibe forced, the timing, suspicious it might happen late at night or after seeing you somewhere. That post isn't just for the world. It's a flare signal. An emotional message in a bottle thrown across the digital sea, hoping you'll pick it up and decode it. Because remember, for men who suffer silently, social media becomes an emotional outlet, a proxy battlefield. Why? Because it's safe. It lets him express without risking. He can pretend it's not about you. And you can't confront him without making it about yourself. So he keeps plausible deniability. It's passive expression, but make no mistake, it's deeply intentional. His emotional immaturity doesn't make him malicious. It makes him indirect, because directness feels like too much exposure. So instead of vulnerability, he opts for performance. But here's the deeper layer. He's watching you too. He doesn't just post, he checks if you saw it. Even if he's blocked you somewhere, chances are he's left one window open, maybe a story you can still view, maybe a post on a shared platform, maybe an update through a mutual friend. And every time you see something that makes your heart race, he's quietly wondering, did she see it? Did she feel it? Did it hit her like it was meant to? Because what he wants isn't just for you to see, it's for you to feel seen, to feel that he's still relevant, that he still lives in your emotional landscape, even if only through a quote, a lyric or a filtered photo. And this is where most women fall into the emotional trap, by responding, confronting, or assuming. You might want to ask him, was that about me? Or text him something subtle like, nice quote, but that's what he's waiting for. That's the loop he's baiting you into. Because then he gets confirmation that he still has emotional leverage, that he can still affect you without showing his hand. But Stoicism teaches us something different. It teaches us that true emotional power lies not in reaction, but in observation, in letting the performance play out without needing to enter the theater. Love, Stoic, is not about suppressing your feelings. It's about not letting those feelings be hijacked by someone else's unspoken narrative. So what do you do instead? You watch if you must. You observe if you're curious. But you don't feed the performance. You don't reward emotional immaturity with attention. Because here's what happens when you don't react. The power dynamics shift. Your stillness becomes reflection. Your emotional composure becomes a mirror. Suddenly, every story he posts doesn't bounce off your reaction. It bounces back to him. And in that silence, he's forced to confront a reality that you've outgrown the emotional maze, that he no longer pulls your focus, that his cryptic content no longer shakes your center. And this is what truly shakes him, not your tears, not your texts, not your comments or likes, but your ability to stay calm in the face of everything he's using to stir you up. That is what burns. That is what disrupts. And that is what begins to shift something inside him, even if he'll never admit it. Because here's the truth. Men who are healed don't need to post for validation. They don't need to disguise their heartbreak in indirect messages. They don't need to use their profiles as confession booths. But men who are still hurting, they create digital art out of emotional confusion, and their audience is one person. So the next time you see something and feel like it's oddly personal, trust that instinct. You're not imagining things. But don't let that realization pull you back into old dynamics. Stay grounded, stay silent, stay stoic. Because when you no longer validate the indirect messages, you break the loop. You free yourself from the emotional tug of war. You reclaim your peace. And in doing so, you elevate your energy to a place where his suffering cannot manipulate your love. Stoic isn't about pretending you don't feel. It's about holding your power while you feel everything, but act on only what serves your emotional clarity. So yes, he's posting for you. Yes, he wants you to feel something, but that doesn't mean you have to perform your emotions just to match his. Let him speak in code. Let him project. Let him post you. You live. You rise. You protect your peace. Like a queen guards her kingdom, not out of fear, but out of sovereignty. And if this part of the video spoke to something deep inside you, if you saw yourself in this emotional pattern and finally understand it from a new unshakable lens, then do something powerful right now, like this video, and comment number 1 below to let me know this resonated. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because what's coming is even deeper. We're just getting started. This is Love Stoic, and this is your emotional edge. Stay with me. The next sign will open your eyes in a way you never saw coming. 3, blocks you, unblocks you, disappears, and then reappears without explanation. There's a certain kind of chaos that doesn't erupt in noise or drama. It unfolds quietly in digital patterns and emotional withdrawal that make no sense at first glance, but reveal everything when you look closer. You may have opened your phone one day to check a message only to find that his profile had vanished. No story, no post, no trace. You were blocked. No warning, no argument, no final word, just a clean digital cut as if you never existed. And days later, or weeks or months, that same account reappears. He's back. No message, no explanation, no apology, nothing. And in that nothingness lies the real message. Because a man who is suffering silently but unwilling to face his own emotions often turns to emotional control. And blocking you is one of the few forms of control he feels he still has left in his mind. Cutting off your access to his world becomes an act of strength, of reclaiming his sense of power. It's not about punishing you. It's about protecting himself from memories, from hope, from the ache of what he lost but doesn't know how to let go of. Because every time he sees your name, your photo, your words, something in him stirs something unresolved, wakes up, and so he does what feels safe. He slams the door digitally, not because he no longer cares, but because caring has become too hard to manage. The pain is still raw. But instead of dealing with it consciously, he chooses disconnection. And this decision, while it may feel hurtful or confusing to you, is not about you at all. It's about his inability to regulate emotional overwhelm. Stoicism, in its misunderstood form, tells men to retreat, to cut, to harden. So he does. He erases your presence, not to move on, but to survive the chaos within. But that chaos doesn't go away. It simmers beneath the silence. And eventually, when the initial wave of panic subsides, when the absence grows louder than your presence ever did, he begins to feel the weight of what's missing. And that's when he unblocks you quietly, without warning, without a text or an explanation. He just reopens the door. He once slammed shut, not to welcome you in necessarily, but to feel your presence again. Your stories, your updates, your energy. He wants access. He wants the option to see you again, even if he pretends not to care. Because blocking you may have silenced the noise temporarily, but it didn't resolve the storm. And when a man suffers in silence, his actions become cycles. Block, unblock, disappear, return. It's not a game. It's not emotional immaturity for the sake of attention. It's a symptom of unresolved grief colliding with pride. Because here's the brutal truth. A man who's truly healed doesn't need to erase and restore contact like a swinging door, but a man who's hurting, he's torn between wanting to forget you and needing to feel close to you. Between pushing you away and pulling you near, and in this mental tug of war, his behavior becomes erratic, unpredictable, and confusing. And it's easy, so easy for you to internalize it, to ask yourself, what did I do? Why now? Is he playing with me? But those are the wrong questions. The better question is, what is he afraid of feeling if he leaves that door open permanently? Because the moment he unblocks you, he's admitting something silently but deeply. He's saying he's not ready to completely let go. He's saying you still hold a presence in his life, even if it's only through digital space. And that should not be mistaken for strength. That's hesitation. That's emotional limbo. That's suffering dressed as control. And here's what makes it even more complicated. He might never acknowledge this pattern. He may act like the block never happened. He might show up in your feed again as if no digital exile occurred. He might respond to your story like a post, or even send a vague message weeks after his silent retreat. But don't be fooled by the reappearance. Don't mistake visibility for clarity, because what you're witnessing isn't resolution, it's emotional disorder. When a man hasn't processed his pain, he becomes disorganized with how he handles you. He's not clear, because he's not clear. Inside, his actions are fragmented, just like his feelings. And here's the part most women miss. Responding to this behavior with confusion, confrontation, or emotional reactivity only amplifies the storm. He doesn't need more intensity. He needs a mirror. He needs to feel the contrast of his chaos against your clarity. Because when you don't react, when you don't demand answers or match his volatility, you become the still point in his hurricane. And that stillness, that's what he feels the most. Not your anger, not your attention, but your emotional constancy. And stoicism, in its truest form, is about mastering your own energy in the face of another's disorder. You don't block back. You don't chase. You don't play detective. You simply understand what's really happening. He is not over you, but he doesn't know how to be with you either. He wants control, not connection. He wants relief, not resolution. And that's why he swings. That's why he reappears, not to restart, but to feel tethered to what once made him feel something real. So what should you do when he unblocks you after a silent exit? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not because you're playing a game, but because you're choosing power over participation. You're choosing peace over performance. You're choosing love, stoic, choosing to acknowledge that his suffering is not your responsibility to fix or carry. His behavior is not a test. It's not a signal to leap into old patterns. It's a reflection of where he is stuck, in between holding on and letting go. And the moment you let his behavior dictate yours, you step into that limbo too. But if you stay grounded, if you remain unshaken, something powerful begins to happen. He feels it in a sea of people who react, who chase who. Confront your calmness becomes unforgettable. Your steadiness becomes a lighthouse. And while he may never admit it, the consistency strikes deeper than any emotional outburst ever could. Because in a world full of noise, the person who stands still speaks the loudest. So when you see him disappear and return, block and Unblock, understand that his behavior is not about manipulation. It's about emotional imbalance. It's about pain. He doesn't know how to name. And the more you understand this, the more free you become, not because he changes, but because you no longer need him to. You see the signs, you know what they mean, and instead of reacting, you rise. That is stoicism. That is strength. That is the energy shift that begins to change everything, not just between you and him, but inside you. Because when you stop dancing to someone else's emotional rhythm, you create your own. And that's where peace begins in the next part. You'll understand a deeper layer of his emotional contradiction, why his need to seem fine on the outside is often the loudest confession of how broken he feels on the inside. Stay with me. 4. He talks about you to others, but never reaches out to you. There's a strange phenomenon that occurs when a man is still emotionally tied to a woman he no longer speaks to. He begins to speak about her everywhere else, not to her directly, not in a message, not in a moment of courage or vulnerability, but through third parties, mutual friends, distant acquaintances, and sometimes even complete strangers. He brings her up in conversations that didn't require her name. He references moments from the past as if they hold no weight, but the way he speaks betrays the truth. She's still under his skin. And if you're that woman hearing secondhand that he's been talking about you hits differently, it's confusing, infuriating, and strangely validating. Because if he really didn't care, why would your name still live in his mouth? Why would someone who supposedly moved on still be trying to process your story through the voices of others? This behavior is one of the most revealing signs of silent male suffering. Because when a man is still hurting but can't face you, he vents not to heal, not to slander, but to externalize what he can't resolve internally. His words aren't just stories, they're echoes of emotions he hasn't met, and because he lacks the emotional framework to go inward, he turns outward, hoping that someone else will help him understand what he still can't explain to himself. So he says things like, "She was never really into me anyway," or "It's better this way," or "She changed." But the tone isn't detached. It's rehearsed. It's brittle. It's full of tension. And when a man repeats a story, especially one that involves loss, pain, or betrayal, it's rarely about the facts. It's about the feelings hiding underneath, even when he jokes, even when he makes it sound like he's over it. Pay attention, because humor, sarcasm, and indifference are often defense mechanisms. He's not laughing because it's funny. He's laughing because he doesn't know what else to do with the ache. And when your name keeps slipping through his conversations, that's his heart trying to find an exit through his mouth. He might not message you. He might never call. He might even avoid eye contact if he sees you, but he still talks. And that's not meaningless. That's grief disguised as commentary. That's longing, pretending to be indifference. That's love stoic in its most paradoxical form. A man refusing to appear weak, even as he leaks his pain in casual conversation. And you might think, if he misses me, why doesn't he just reach out? Why go around the truth like this? The answer is complex, but brutally simple. Reaching out means surrendering pride. It means confronting a version of himself he's not proud of. It means risking the humiliation of rejection, or worse, no response at all. So he speaks to those around you because speaking directly to you feels like standing naked in a storm. And sometimes he genuinely believes he's over you because the mind plays tricks when it wants to survive. He convinces himself that by retelling the story enough times, he'll find closure, but closure doesn't come from repetition. It comes from resolution, and what he's doing isn't resolving. It's circling like a man pacing the edges of a cliff, afraid to look down because he knows he's not ready to jump, not ready to move on, not ready to face what still lives deep inside. So the next time you hear that he mentioned you, or someone tells you he brought you up at a gathering, or you catch a subtle reference in something he shared online, don't dismiss it. That's not noise. That's signal. That's his emotional system sending out flare after flare, hoping you'll decode them without him having to spell it out. But here's the part where you reclaim your power. You don't chase that signal. You don't confront it. You don't respond to secondhand messages with first-level emotion. Instead, you interpret it through a stoic lens. He is not reaching out because he can't bear the emotional cost, and that's his journey, not yours, to shortcut love. Stoic teaches us that understanding is not the same as obligation. You can understand that he's still suffering. You can even feel compassion for it. But you are not responsible for becoming the emotional landing pad for someone who refuses to land themselves. Because when you react to his indirect expression with direct energy, you tip the balance. You enter his emotional confusion, and your clarity dissolves. But when you stay centered, when you hold the line with grace and composure, your presence becomes a mirror, a quiet force that reflects his avoidance back to him. And that is the most powerful influence you can have. not through words, but through energetic sovereignty. And yes, it will sting when you hear that he's talking about you, but not to you. It will hurt when you realize he's processing your memory out loud to everyone. But the one person who lived it with him, but don't confuse avoidance with forgetting a man who doesn't speak to you, but can't stop speaking about you. As a man still tangled in emotion, he's just emotionally unskilled, not emotionally indifferent. And the more stoic you become in the face of that, the more that truth becomes visible to everyone, including him. Because eventually the people he talks to will start noticing the contradiction. They'll sense the emotion he's trying to hide, they'll hear the story, but feel the pain, and they might even tell him, "You're not over her." And whether he admits it or not, that seed will be planted. That truth will begin to grow. And you won't need to say a thing. You'll already be ahead. Calm, clear, unbothered, focused on your own life, your own healing, your own elevation. That is how you win the emotional war. Not by reacting, but by rising. And if this message resonated with you, if you've been through this exact storm, I invite you now to like this video and comment number 1 below. So I know you're feeling this, and if you haven't yet, subscribe, because the next part goes even deeper. There's a side of male suffering we haven't touched yet, but we will stay with me. 5, he seems to be doing great, almost too great. There's something unsettling about watching someone who once shared your inner world suddenly radiate joy, confidence, and freedom as if none of it ever happened. Especially when that someone is the man you loved. You see him smiling, glowing, posting motivational quotes like, "Everything happens for a reason," or "I'm finally putting myself first." You see him at the gym, with friends traveling, dressing better, looking sharper. Living on the surface, it looks like he's flourishing. But beneath it, if you pay attention, not just with your eyes, but with your intuition, something feels off. The energy behind those posts isn't grounded, it's forced. It's overcompensating. It's trying just a little too hard. Because here's what most people don't understand about male emotional expression. When a man is truly healed, truly free, truly at peace, he doesn't need to perform it. Peace is quiet. Wholeness is humble. But a man who's still suffering silently will often try to prove the opposite to himself and to you. He becomes louder, not because he's full of joy, but because he's full of joy. Dissonance, and that dissonance needs to be masked. So he amplifies the performance. He fills his feed with curated moments of bliss. But the thing about real happiness is it doesn't beg to be witnessed. It doesn't pose. It doesn't seek applause. It simply exists. So when you see a man suddenly broadcasting his glow up after a painful ending, you must ask yourself, who is this really for? Is this for him, or is it for you? Because often he's not trying to move on. He's trying to be seen moving on. And that distinction is everything he knows you're watching, or at least he hopes you are. Every story, every caption, every tagged location is laced with subtext. Look at me. Look what you lost. Look how fine I am. Without you. And in that need to be seen, there is vulnerability. A healed man doesn't need to remind you he's fine. But a man who still hurts, who hasn't processed the full impact of the breakup, wants validation not of his happiness, but of his emotional survival. He wants to feel like he made it through without cracking, like he didn't need you as much as
he actually did. And because he can't admit that to himself, he turns the volume up on his life, hoping the noise will drown out the truth. And what's the truth? That he still aches, that he still replays moments in his head, that he still compares every high to the feeling he once had when he was with you. But instead of facing that honestly, he puts on a
show. It's not manipulation, it's protection. It's ego preservation. Because to show pain would mean to confront weakness, and weakness in his mind would mean loss of control. And if he's not grounded in his identity without you, he needs to construct one fast. That's why the transformation seems so sudden. That's why he goes from grieving to glowing. Overnight, it's not that he healed. It's that he refused to feel an unprocessed pain always leaks somewhere. So it leaks into performance, into aesthetics, into the curated life that says, I'm fine, I'm thriving, I don't need you. But the irony is, the louder the message, the more desperate the sender. And if you've matured, if you've stepped into your stoic awareness, you won't be fooled. You won't be baited into insecurity. You'll recognize the energy behind the energy. You'll see that the man who's constantly proving his happiness is not at peace. He's performing survival. And here's the critical moment where your emotional maturity is tested. Do you react? Do you try to compete? Do you start posting your own curated moments to match the energy? That's the temptation. That's the loop. But Stoicism teaches us this. You do not need to participate in someone else's performance to validate your own growth. Your peace does not require proof. Your stability does not demand applause. When you see him shining with forced light, you simply witness it without attachment, not because you don't feel, but because your feelings don't control your actions. That is love stoic. That is emotional freedom. And understand this, most men don't even realize they're doing this. They think they're showing progress. They think they're embodying strength, but what they're really doing is hiding. Because deep inside, they know there are parts of the relationship they never processed, never grieved, never understood. So they replace introspection with expression. They swap inner work for outer noise, and because society rewards male silence and action over vulnerability and emotion, they're applauded for it. People cheer, people comment, people say, "You're doing amazing," but no one asks how he really feels when the camera's off. No one questions the hollowness behind the captions. No one sees the moment when he's alone in his apartment, scrolling through old texts, wondering how something that felt so alive could now be a ghost. But you feel it. You sense that disconnection between the image and the emotion, and that knowing is power because it prevents you from spiraling. It protects you from unnecessary doubt. It reminds you that appearances are not reality. And sometimes the happiest looking man is the most emotionally numb. So what do? You stay grounded. You stay in your lane. You let him perform without becoming part of the audience. You heal quietly. You build deeply. You choose growth over games. And if his glow up was meant to sting your indifference, becomes the antidote, your silence, your presence, your peace, that's what he notices. That's what he feels. Not your reaction, but your refusal to react. And eventually when the hype fades, when the audience thins, when the likes mean less and the captions begin to feel empty, he'll start to question why it still doesn't feel right, why the piece he posts about still hasn't arrived. And that's when your energy hits him. Not through words, not through confrontation, but through contrast. His noise versus your quiet, performance versus your peace, his urgency versus your stillness. That's what love stoic looks like. It's not coldness, it's power. Power rooted in self-awareness, in not needing to prove anything and allowing the truth to rise without forcing it. And eventually, when he's done trying to convince the world and himself that he's over it, he may finally feel the full weight of what he's been avoiding. And maybe he'll reach out or maybe he won't. But either way, you'll be ready because your healing wasn't a show. It was real. It was sacred. And it was yours. 6, he lashes out or contradicts himself for no clear reason. There's a kind of behavior that doesn't make sense on the surface, but reveals everything when viewed through the lens of emotional grief and unspoken pain. He blocks you, then unblocks you. He watches your stories, then unfollows you. He replies to your messages coldly, sarcastically, or not at all, and then suddenly sends a vague or emotionally loaded text. Days later, he disappears, then reappears, then acts like nothing ever happened. It's a cycle that feels exhausting and confusing, and most importantly, it feels irrational. But here's the truth. There's nothing irrational about emotional contradiction when a man is suffering silently and doesn't know how to process what he's feeling. This isn't game playing. It's not emotional immaturity for the sake of drama. It's inner chaos leaking into outer behavior. And when you see these contradictory actions, what you're actually witnessing is the battle between two versions of him. The rational mind that tells him to let go, and the emotional heart that still craves connection. And you become the battlefield. That's why he lashes out. That's why he reacts in ways that feel out of proportion or out of character, because he's not in control. He's emotionally disorganized. On one hand, he wants peace. On the other hand, he still feels the loss of you so deeply that every interaction becomes a trigger. Every post, every silence, every non-reaction sets something off inside him, and instead of slowing down and acknowledging what's really happening, he projects, he externalizes, he directs his confusion outward toward you. So if you've ever been hit with a cold message out of nowhere, or if he's suddenly gone quiet after reaching out emotionally, you need to know this isn't about you, it's about the war inside him. A war between the need to detach and the inability to truly let go. And this is where stoicism becomes your greatest weapon. Not in the sense of suppressing your emotions, but in recognizing what's yours to eye carry and what's not his. Contradictions are not a sign of your failure or your inadequacy. They are a reflection of his inner imbalance. Because when a man is suffering, but refuses to admit it even to himself, his emotions don't vanish. They mutate. They come out in sarcasm and mood swings and passive-aggressive comments and disproportionate reactions to small triggers. And you might feel tempted to respond, to ask for clarity, to call him out to defend yourself. But the Stoic response is not silence, for silence's sake. It's presence. It's the ability to see that his pain is not a personal attack. It's personal confusion. And when you don't get pulled into that storm, you become the contrast. You become the clarity he doesn't yet know how to find. This is why you must resist the urge to match his energy. Don't respond to sarcasm with sarcasm. Don't fight fire with fire. Don't turn his instability into your emotional playground. Because the moment you do, you validate his behavior, you confirm the loop, and the loop continues. But when you stay grounded, when you hold your composure, you not only protect your peace, you disrupt his entire emotional pattern. He expects you to react. He anticipates your emotional engagement. But when you choose calm instead of chaos, observation instead of participation, you interrupt his default programming. You show him something radically unfamiliar. A woman who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't demand. A woman who simply sees the behavior for what it is, unresolved, grief. And that's what throws him off. Because for the first time, he has to sit with his own contradictions without your emotional energy to absorb them. He has to feel the weight of his choices. He has to realize that what he's projecting isn't working anymore. And slowly, that realization begins to unravel something deeper. Maybe regret, maybe sadness, maybe the first flickers of self-awareness, but none of that happens. You step into the ring with him. It only happens when you stay out, calm, clear, stoic, and yes, it hurts to be on the receiving end of emotional inconsistency. It hurts to be the one who gets pushed and pulled without explanation. But if you understand what's truly behind it, you stop internalizing it. You stop taking it personally, because this isn't about whether you were enough. This is about whether he has the tools to process what he lost. And if he doesn't, he lashes out not because he wants to hurt you, but because he doesn't know how to feel without hurting himself. So his energy becomes unstable, his actions become unpredictable, his words become weapons. Not because he's cruel, because he's in pain and doesn't know how to hold it. And while that doesn't excuse the behavior, it explains it. And when you understand it, you take back your power. You stop being the target. You become the witness. And in that space, your strength multiplies. That is love stoic. That is the art of holding emotional boundaries without becoming emotionally numb. It's the balance between compassion and clarity, between understanding his pain and refusing to carry it. And if you've ever experienced this kind of contradiction from a man you know still feels something, I want you to know this. You're not alone. This is one of the most common but misunderstood dynamics in male emotional suffering, and your ability to stay grounded through it is not only rare, it's revolutionary, because it changes the narrative. It transforms the emotional landscape. It invites maturity, not chaos. And eventually, when the storm inside him calms, if it ever does, he will remember one thing above all else, that when he was at his most unstable, you were stillness. And that stillness, more than any message, more than any argument, more than any emotional plea, that's what stays with him. That's what haunts him. That's what heals him. So if this part of the video resonated with you, if you saw yourself in this emotional pattern, let me know by liking this video and dropping #1 in the comments below. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, because the next part reveals a truth that many feel that few are able to name. Don't miss it. You're almost at the end, and what's coming next ties everything together. 7, he doesn't pursue you, but he also doesn't replace you. There's a type of man whose silence doesn't signify that he's moved on. It's simply the space he retreats into when he's lost the courage to feel. And nowhere is that clearer than when he disappears from your life. Doesn't reach out, doesn't try to win you back, and yet months later, no one has taken your place. Not really, not emotionally, not intimately, not on the level that matters. And while you might not see the evidence, you can feel it. Because if he truly let go, there'd be an energetic void, a shift, a release. But when that doesn't come, you begin to sense a different kind of presence. His presence in absence. The way you never quite fade. The way he lingers in the edges of your energy. The way certain songs, photos, or people seem to orbit back toward you through him. And people might say he's fine now that he's dating again, that he's busy. But deep down, if you've ever meant something real to a man, there's a part of him that won't just replace you with convenience. Because what's lost in real connection can't be filled with casual attention. And for the man who silently suffers moving on, isn't a choice. It's a battle. He craves emotional freedom. But every time he sits across from someone new, something feels hollow. Something's missing. The conversation feels surface. The chemistry feels forced. The laughter feels polite, not electric. And it's not because the new woman is lacking. It's because he's still tied to the emotional imprint you left behind. That bond wasn't just emotional, it was cellular. And while he may not realize it, his body remembers you, his nervous system remembers what it felt like to hold you, to laugh with you, to fight with you, to forgive you. His skin remembers your voice. His eyes remember your soul. And No amount of first dates or rebounds can erase that coding overnight. And so he keeps going. He answers messages, maybe even flirts. He goes out, tries to distract himself, maybe even posts something that suggests he's got someone new, but it doesn't stick. It doesn't click. It doesn't feel like you. And that's the paradox. He won't reach out to you, but he won't let anyone else in either. It's as if he built a wall around the part of his heart you once held and forgot where he placed the door from the outside. He looks fine, functional, capable, emotionally independent, but deep inside, there's a quiet mourning happening, a longing. He doesn't share, not even with his closest friends. He might act aloof. He might speak as if he's over it, but if you truly saw him in his quietest moments at night alone, after the conversations end and the lights go out, you'd see the truth. You'd see a man lying in silence with too many thoughts and not enough clarity. You'd see a man scrolling, hesitating, reading old messages without opening the thread, breathing deeply, but not peacefully. You'd see a man who doesn't understand why the absence of you still feels louder than the presence of anyone else. Because what people misunderstand about male grief is that it doesn't always erupt. It withdraws. It cloaks itself in silence, in self-improvement, in distraction. But when you look at the pattern, story becomes clear. If he truly moved on, someone else would have entered his emotional world with force, with ease, with resonance. But she hasn't, not because she's not enough, but because he's not ready. And readiness isn't about timing. It's about healing. It's about closure. And closure doesn't happen when you suppress emotion. It happens when you confront it. But if he's never looked at the pain directly, if he's never really admitted that losing you affected him deeply, then he can't clear that space. He might tell himself he's healed. He might even believe it. But the body never lies. His eyes never lie. His decisions never lie. If every new relationship ends before it begins, if every flirtation feels half-hearted, if every opportunity for intimacy is met with emotional fatigue, he's not over you. He's just pretending to be. He's walking through life, carrying your ghost, not because he wants to, but because he doesn't know how to release you without breaking down. That's the secret. Most men will never confess that they still think about you. While holding someone else's hand, that they still scroll through your photos, while texting someone new, that they still dream about you, even while lying to themselves. And if you've ever felt that pull, like he's still connected even without contact, you're not imagining it, there's a tether, a current, a quiet vibration that hasn't fully settled. And sometimes you feel it strongest when he's with someone else, that energetic dissonance that says this isn't real. Because if it were, the silence would feel different, it would feel closed. But instead, it feels like a door that was never truly locked, just slowly pushed shut without the click. And you might ask yourself, if he's not ready for someone else, why doesn't he just come back? Why doesn't he reach out? The answer is complicated. Because pain isn't always a bridge. It can also be a barrier. He might fear rejection. He might believe too much damage has been done. He might be ashamed of how he handled things. Or he might be so committed to his image of moving on that reaching out would collapse the persona he's built. Pride is a prison, and he might still be locked inside it, but his choices don't change. The truth is you're still there, not as a thought he chooses, but as a presence that lingers, and that presence makes it impossible for him to feel fully alive with anyone else. So he settles not for someone, but for emotional numbness, for the safety of disconnection, for the quiet of not trying. And that's the saddest part of all, not that he doesn't love again, but that he doesn't even let himself try with an open heart, because you still occupy that space. And until he processes the loss, until he opens the vault and feels it fully, he'll keep living in emotional purgatory, present, but not engaged, available, but not open, alive, but not feeling. And you move forward, not because he didn't matter, but because you chose peace over the loop, because you chose love, stoic. Not just as a mindset, but as a way of being. You chose to understand him without waiting for him. You chose to release without closing your heart. You chose to heal in a way he may never allow himself to. And that is why your energy lingers. Not because you haunt him, but because you represented something real, something grounded, something honest. And while he may never replace you, while he may never say it out loud, the void you left continues to remind him silently, relentlessly, that some connections can't be substituted. They must be grieved. And until he does, he will keep circling the memory of you, hoping to find someone who evokes the same feeling without evoking the same vulnerability. But that's not how it works. That's not how real love is replaced. It isn't. It evolves. And if he doesn't let it, he'll stay stuck in the memory, in the absence, in the ache, watching, but not reaching, existing, but not living, surrounded, but still alone. So now you know silence doesn't always mean indifference, disconnection doesn't always mean detachment, and a man who seems to have vanished from your life may be carrying a weight heavier than you imagined, silently and visibly, and relentless. The 7 signs we've explored aren't just random behaviors, they're emotional symptoms of a man who's still grieving something he lost but can't bring himself to name out loud. Not because he doesn't feel, but because he doesn't know how to face those feelings without unraveling. Because love, stoic, true emotional restraint requires more than silence. It requires self-awareness, and many men have been taught to value strength over softness, to armor up instead of open up, to act unbothered rather than admit they're breaking. But you, the woman watching this, you now see beneath the surface. You understand what most overlook. And that understanding is power, not the kind of power that manipulates or punishes, but the kind that frees you from doubt, from confusion, from overanalyzing signs that once consumed you, because now you see that behind every contradiction, every sudden block or indirect post, every overly cheerful selfie is not detachment, but defense. A man still tethered to what you were, a man who can't replace you even if he tries. And what do you do with that knowledge? You don't chase it. You don't resent it. You don't shrink for it. You rise, you heal, you become the woman who holds her emotional ground. You live your life with presence, with purpose, and with peace. You understand that your power isn't in making him suffer for losing you. It's in becoming someone even he couldn't reach anymore because you've grown beyond the version of you that once waited. That's what stoicism in love looks like. Calm over chaos, depth over reaction, stillness over strategy. You've walked with me through 7 silent signs of male suffering. And if any part of this resonated with your heart, if you saw the invisible truths, felt the patterns, remembered the signals, then honor that awareness like this video and comment number 1 below to let me know it reached you, because this message isn't just for you. It's for every woman who's ever doubted her worth because of a man's silence. And if you haven't already, subscribe now, because here we don't just decode love, we elevate through it. This is Love Stoic, and you're just getting started. Listen up. If you're tired of feeling stuck, drained, or invisible in your own life, then this is for you, because today we're cutting through the noise and getting real about what's holding you back. Weakness isn't about physical strength. It's about mindset. It's about habits. And the good news, weakness is not permanent. The moment you recognize these signs, you take your power back. So let's get into it. -7, even signs of a weak woman, and how you can flip the script. Many people, especially women, develop the habit of over-apologizing. It seems harmless at first to quick, I'm sorry for interrupting, for asking a question, for needing help, or even for simply existing in a space. But over time, this habit can erode confidence, reinforce self-doubt, and send the wrong message to the world. When you apologize excessively, you subconsciously position yourself as someone who is always in the wrong, someone who must shrink themselves to accommodate others, and someone who is seeking approval to simply take up space. This is not strength. This is self-sabotage. The problem with constant apologizing is that it dilutes the power of your words and weakens your presence. Imagine someone who starts almost every sentence with an apology. I'm sorry, but can I say something? I'm sorry for bothering you. I'm sorry, I just have a quick question. Over time, those around them begin to perceive them as hesitant, uncertain, or lacking confidence instead of being seen as someone with valuable input. They become someone who is constantly seeking permission to speak or act. The world does not reward hesitation. It responds to certainty. Apologizing should be reserved for moments when you've genuinely done something wrong. If you hurt someone, made a mistake, or acted in a way that caused harm, then owning up to it with an apology is a sign of strength and maturity. But when I'm sorry becomes your automatic response to everything, even situations where no apology is needed, it becomes a form of self-minimization. Instead of expressing confidence, you're signaling to others that you believe your presence or actions are an inconvenience. This is a pattern that must be broken. Breaking the habit of over-apologizing starts with awareness. Pay attention to how often you say I'm sorry in a given day. You might be shocked at how frequently it slips out in situations where no apology is necessary. The next step is to replace unnecessary apologies with more empowering language. Instead of saying, I'm sorry for being late, try, thank you for your patience. Instead of I'm sorry to bother you, say I appreciate your time. These small shifts reframe your communication in a way that maintains respect while reinforcing confidence. Confidence is about owning your space, your time, and your worth without seeking unnecessary validation. Women in particular have been conditioned to be polite, accommodating, and agreeable. While kindness and respect are important, they should never come at the cost of self-respect. Apologizing excessively doesn't make you more likable, it makes you less authoritative. The most respected people in any room are not those who constantly apologize for existing. They are the ones who speak with certainty and own their words. If you want to be seen as a strong, confident woman, start by eliminating needless apologies from your vocabulary. This doesn't mean becoming rude or dismissive. It means recognizing that your voice matters and that you don't need permission to take up space. When you replace self-doubt with self-assurance, people notice, they listen differently, they respond with more respect, and most importantly, you start seeing yourself differently. Your words shape your reality. If you constantly frame yourself as someone who is always apologizing, you start believing that you are an inconvenience. But when you shift to a mindset of confidence, your entire presence changes. You move differently. You speak with more clarity. You stop hesitating before sharing your ideas. And suddenly the world starts responding to you in a completely different way. Strength begins with the way you communicate, and removing unnecessary apologies is one of the simplest but most powerful changes you can make. Fear is one of the most powerful forces that can either propel a person forward or keep them trapped in a cycle of hesitation and self-doubt. Many women allow fear to dictate their decisions, convincing themselves that they are not ready, not good enough, or that failure is inevitable. Fear spurs lies, telling them to stay in a job they hate, remain in a relationship that drains them, or settle for less than they deserve because stepping into the unknown feels too risky. This is the mindset that keeps women from reaching their full potential. The truth is, fear is not a stop sign, it is a challenge. And those who learn to push through it are the ones who grow, succeed, and live with purpose. Fear operates in subtle ways. It guises itself as overthinking, procrastination, or self-sabotage. A woman may have a dream of starting her own business, going back to school, or speaking up in a meeting, but fear convinces her to wait for the right moment. She tells herself she needs more experience, more skills, or more confidence before she can take action, but the right moment never comes. Instead, days turn into months, months into years, and before she knows it, she is stuck in the same place, regretting the chances she never took. The harsh truth is that confidence does not come before action, it comes because of action. The most successful women are not fearless, they simply refuse to let fear control them. They feel the fear, acknowledge it, and move forward anyway. They understand that discomfort is part of growth, and that every great opportunity comes with uncertainty. Fear tries to keep people in their comfort zones, but nothing great ever happens in a place of comfort. Every achievement, every breakthrough, and every transformation happens outside of it. Growth requires risk, and risk requires courage. One of the biggest fears that holds women back is the fear of failure. Society has conditioned women to believe that making mistakes is something to be ashamed of, but failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the journey. Every successful woman has faced rejection, setbacks, and challenges. What sets them apart is their refusal to give up. Instead of seeing failure as proof that they are not capable, they see it as a lesson, an opportunity to learn and improve. The most dangerous thing women can do is let the fear of failing keep her from even trying. Another fear that weakens women is the fear of judgment. Too many women hold themselves back because they are afraid of what others will think. They worry about being criticized, looking foolish, or not being accepted. But living for the approval of others is a prison. There will always be people who disapprove, misunderstand, or judge. The key is realizing that their opinions do not define your worth or determine your success. Strong women understand that the only validation they need is their own. The fear of the unknown is another major roadblock. Many women stay in situations that make them unhappy simply because they are familiar. They choose predictability over possibility because stepping into the unknown feels too uncertain. But uncertainty is not a bad thing. It is where new opportunities are born. No one has everything figured out. No one knows exactly how things will turn out, but waiting for certainty means waiting forever. The only way to build the life you want is to step into the unknown with faith, resilience, and the belief that you will figure things out along the way. Every woman has two choices: let fear control her or use fear as fuel. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck is simple action. The moment you decide that fear will no longer hold you back, you take your power back. Fear will never completely disappear, but it loses its grip when you stop listening to it. The next time fear tells you that you can't, that you're not ready, or that you're not good enough, remind yourself that fear is just a feeling, not a fact. And then take the leap. Seeking validation from others is one of the most common yet destructive habits that weaken a woman's confidence and sense of self. It starts subtly looking for approval before making decisions, doubting your own judgment, or constantly worrying about what others think. Over time, this habit becomes a way of life instead of trusting yourself. You rely on external validation to feel worthy, intelligent, or capable. This is a dangerous cycle because it puts your sense of worth in the hands of other people. It means your confidence can be shattered by a single negative opinion, and your decisions are never truly your own. To break free from this pattern, you have to learn how to trust yourself and believe that your choices, thoughts, and opinions are valid without needing someone else to confirm it for you. Women are often conditioned from a young age to seek approval. Society teaches them to be agreeable, to prioritize others, comfort over their own, and to avoid being seen as too much. This leads to a deep-rooted habit of looking to others for reassurance before taking action, whether it's choosing an outfit, expressing an opinion, or making a major life decision. Many women feel the need to check in with friends, family, or even social media before feeling confident in their choices. This constant need for external validation creates a dependency that we can self-trust. Instead of making decisions based on what they truly want or believe, they start making choices based on what will be accepted or praised by others. One of the biggest dangers of seeking validation is that it leads to people-pleasing. When a woman prioritizes approval over authenticity, she begins shaping her identity around what others expect from her. She says yes when she wants to say no. She agrees with opinions she doesn't fully believe in. She suppresses her own needs to avoid disappointing others. Over time, this disconnects her from her own desires, values, and beliefs. She becomes more focused on being liked than on being true to herself. The result: a life that feels unfulfilled and exhausting because it is built on external expectations rather than personal truth. Another major problem with seeking validation is that it creates emotional instability. When a woman's confidence is based on how others perceive her, she becomes highly sensitive to criticism and rejection. A single negative comment can make her question herself, and the lack of praise can leave her feeling inadequate. This means her self-worth is constantly fluctuating depending on how much validation she receives. Strong women, on the other hand, build their confidence from within. They do not need applause to know they are doing something right, nor do they crumble under criticism. They have a deep-rooted belief in themselves that is not shaken by the opinions of others. The need for validation also limits risk-taking. Many women hold themselves back from pursuing opportunities, sharing their ideas, or stepping into leadership roles because they fear judgment. They worry about what people will say if they fail, if they make a mistake, or if they don't meet expectations. This fear of disapproval keeps them from stepping into their full potential. The truth is, no matter what you do, there will always be someone who disagrees, criticizes, or doubts you. Trying to gain universal approval is a losing battle. The most successful women are those who take action despite the possibility of judgment. They understand that growth comes from stepping out of their comfort zones, not from waiting for permission. Breaking free from the need for validation starts with self-awareness, recognizing how often you seek approval as the first step to changing the habit. Ask yourself, do I trust my own decisions, or do I constantly look to others for reassurance? Start making small choices without asking for input. The more you practice trusting yourself, the stronger your confidence will become. Learn to validate yourself by celebrating your own achievements, setting personal standards, and reminding yourself that your opinions and choices are enough. The moment you stop seeking validation from others, you regain control over your life, your confidence, and your happiness. Many women are taught from a young age to be agreeable, polite, and accommodating, while kindness is a strength. Avoiding conflict at all costs is nigh the desire to keep the peace, often leads women to suppress their thoughts, tolerate disrespect, and put others' comfort before their own well-being. They bite their tongues when they disagree, allow people to cross their boundaries, and say yes when they desperately want to say no. This behavior may seem like it maintains harmony, but in reality it erodes self-respect, weakens confidence, and leads to resentment. Learning to speak up and set boundaries is essential for any woman who wants to live a strong, confident, and fulfilling life. When a woman avoids conflict to keep the peace, she often does so because of fear of upsetting others, fear of being judged, or fear of losing relationships. She convinces herself that it's easier to stay quiet than to risk confrontation. But what she doesn't realize is that avoiding conflict doesn't make problems disappear. It only buries them over time. Those unspoken frustrations build up, leading to resentment, stress, and even emotional burnout. She sacrifices her own needs and desires just to avoid rocking the boat, but the cost is her own happiness and mental well-being. True peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of honesty, respect, and boundaries. Speaking up doesn't mean being aggressive, rude, or confrontational. It simply means expressing yourself with clarity and confidence. Many women hesitate to share their thoughts because they worry about being perceived as difficult or demanding. But strong women understand that their opinions matter. They know that their needs and feelings are just as important as anyone else's. They recognize that speaking up is not about causing problems. It's about ensuring they are treated with respect. When a woman consistently silences herself, she teaches others that her voice doesn't matter. When she finally chooses to stand up for herself, she commands respect, not just from others, but from herself. Setting boundaries is another crucial part of this equation. A boundary is not a wall that shuts people out. It is a guideline that protects a woman's energy, time, and emotional well-being. Women who struggle with boundaries often feel guilty for saying no. They worry about disappointing people or being seen as selfish, but a lack of boundaries leads to exhaustion, frustration, and being taken for granted. Strong women set clear boundaries and stick to them. They know that saying no to things that drain them is actually saying yes to themselves. They understand that protecting their peace is not selfish, it is necessary. Boundaries apply to every area of life: relationships, work, family, and friendships. Without them, people will take as much as a woman allows. If she does not set limits, she will find herself constantly overcommitted, emotionally drained, and struggling to meet her own needs. A strong woman is not afraid to say, "This does not work for me." She is not afraid to walk away from situations that disrespect her. She is not afraid to demand the respect she deserves. And when she does, she attracts relationships and opportunities that align with her worth. A woman who avoids conflict may believe she is keeping the peace, but in reality, she is sacrificing herself. She is allowing others to dictate how she is treated, what she can say, and what she can accept. Strength comes from knowing that her voice, her feelings, and her boundaries matter. The moment she starts speaking up and setting limits, she steps into her power. She no longer lives for approval or validation from others. She no longer tolerates disrespect. She no longer apologizes for standing her ground. She becomes a woman who is confident, respected, and in full control of her own life. Settling for less than you deserve is one of the most damaging choices a woman. Afterthought, she starts to believe she is not as important as the people or tasks she prioritizes. She internalizes the idea that her needs do not matter. This mindset weakens confidence, making it easier to accept situations that are unhealthy or unfulfilling. A woman who values herself takes care of herself. She does not wait for permission to rest, recharge, or invest in her well-being. She knows that she is just as deserving of care, attention as anyone else. Prioritizing self-care is not about escaping responsibilities. It is about showing up as the best version of oneself. It means taking time for rest, movement, proper nutrition, and activities that bring joy. It means protecting mental health by reducing toxic influences, setting boundaries, and speaking up about personal needs. It means understanding that saying no to things that drain energy is saying yes to a healthier, more balanced life. A woman who embraces self-care operates from a place of strength. She is clear-headed, confident, and able to handle challenges with resilience. She does not feel guilty for taking care of herself because she understands that she cannot pour from an empty cup. Breaking the cycle of self-neglect starts with a mindset shift. A woman must recognize that she is worthy of the same love and care she gives to others. She must stop seeing self-care as optional and start treating it as essential. She must challenge the belief that being constantly busy equates to being valuable. A well-cared-for woman is a powerful woman. She sets the tone for how others treat her by the way she treats herself. She does not wait for someone else to give her permission to rest, to heal, or to prioritize her happiness. She takes that power into her own hands. and builds a life that reflects her worth. Lack of personal growth is one of the biggest signs of weakness in a woman's life. It keeps her stuck in the same patterns, prevents her from reaching her full potential, and limits her ability to create a fulfilling and successful life. Growth is not automatic. It requires effort, intention, and the willingness to step outside of comfort zones. When a woman stops learning, evolving, and challenging herself, she becomes stagnant, she settles into routines that no longer serve her, holds on to beliefs that keep her small, and avoids the discomfort that comes with transformation. A strong woman understands that growth is a lifelong journey, and she actively seeks opportunities to expand her mind, skills, and experiences. Many women neglect personal growth because they feel they do not have the time or energy to invest in themselves. Responsibilities, work, family, and daily life priority. And self-improvement gets pushed to the side. They tell themselves that they will focus on growth later when things are less chaotic or when they have more free time. But later never comes. Growth does not happen by accident. It happens by choice. A woman must decide that her development is just as important as any other responsibility. She must make learning and self-improvement a non-negotiable part of her life rather than something she will get to someday. Another reason women stop growing is fear. Growth requires change. And change is uncomfortable. It requires stepping into the unknown, trying new things, and risking failure. Many women avoid this discomfort by staying in situations that feel familiar, even if they are not fulfilling. They settle for jobs they do not love because they fear the uncertainty of a career change. They avoid learning new skills because they doubt their ability to succeed. They resist personal development because it forces them to face hard truths about themselves in their lives. But staying in the same place out of fear is the biggest risk of all. A woman who refuses to grow will always feel stuck, unfulfilled, and frustrated because she knows deep down that she is capable of more. Personal growth is not just about careers or education. It is about mindset, habits, and self-awareness. A woman who prioritizes growth is constantly looking for ways to improve. She challenges her own limiting beliefs, surrounds herself with people who inspire, takes action toward becoming the best version of herself. She reads books, listens to podcasts, seeks mentorship, and invests in experiences that broaden her perspective. She does not wait for opportunities to come to her. She creates them. She knows that every small step she takes toward growth adds up to massive transformation over time. A lack of personal growth also impacts confidence. When a woman stops learning and evolving, she begins to doubt herself. She feels unprepared, unsure, and incapable of handling new challenges. This lack of confidence holds her back from pursuing bigger goals, stepping into leadership roles, or speaking up for what she believes in. But when a woman commits to growth, her confidence grows with her. She builds knowledge, sharpens her skills, and strengthens her mindset. She becomes someone who trusts herself to figure things out even when she does not have all the answers. Growth is what separates a woman who stays small from a woman who steps into her full potential. Breaking free from stagnation starts with a decision. A woman must decide that she is worthy of growth and that she will no longer allow fear, doubt, or excuses to hold her back. She must be willing to do the hard work of self-improvement, even when it feels uncomfortable. She must commit to learning, evolving, and pushing past her limitations. A strong woman does not settle for being the same person she was last year, last month, or even last week. She is always growing, always improving, and always striving to become better than she was yesterday. If you recognize yourself in these signs, that's not a bad thing. It means you're self-aware. And that's the first step to change. Weakness is not your destiny. Strength is a choice. Confidence is a habit, and it starts today. So stop waiting for permission. Stop playing small. Stand up, take up space, and own your life, because the only person who can change it is you. Now go out there and be the strong woman you were always meant to be.